Chapter 5011, Wang Zhu. Since it was not yet time for the secret realm to open, everyone could only wait on the spot and gather in twos and threes to chat. At this moment, Mu Zian gracefully walked over. Lan Luoyin had the best relationship with her, so she went up to greet her with some flattery. Lan Luoyin wanted to curry favor with Mu Zian. This way, if there was a conflict inside, Mu Zian could also save her life. Mu Zian smiled and chatted with her for a while. Then she changed the topic. I wonder who is the leader of your Lan family this time? Lan Luoyin curled her lips and said, Sister Zian, I'm not afraid of you making fun of me. Our leader this time is Yin Chuzhou. Mu Zian was stunned. She never thought that the Lan family would actually let Yin Chuzhou be the leader. At this moment, she noticed that Yin Chuzhou's spiritual power had actually soared to the 5th level of the extreme spiritual realm. She had actually broken through to the 5th level in such a short time? How did she do it? Mu Zian could not help but feel a little jealous and fearful. Although she had just broken through to the 7th level of the extreme spiritual realm a few days ago, if she allowed this bitch to continue jumping around, perhaps her spiritual power would surpass hers. At that time, wouldn't there be even less ways to deal with her? This time she had to kill her. Fortunately, the 3 families had already reached an agreement. After entering, they would find an opportunity to kill the people of the Lan family. Yin Chuzhou, you're dead meat. Mu Zian came back to her senses and said with a gentle smile, so your captain is Yin Chuzhou. In that case, I wish your Lan family the best. Lan Luoyin pursed her lips and wanted to say something. However, if she said something disheartening at this time, she might be blamed by others. Therefore, she swallowed what she wanted to say. However, from the bottom of her heart, she felt that the Lan family was doomed this time. Putting everything else aside, their team leader would not be able to compete with the other 3 families. The Mu family's team leader was Mu Zian, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. The Zhuang family's team leader was Zhuang Shurchen, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. The Qi family's team leader was Qi Tianhui, 7th level of the extreme spirit realm. No matter which one of them was stronger than Yin Chuzhou, who was at the 5th level of the extreme spirit realm, not to mention that the other team members also had higher spiritual powers than the Lan family. While the 2 of them were chatting, Lan Dimeo and the other 3 called everyone to gather and read out some things to take note of. First, the divine relic trial lasted for 1 month. Flying was forbidden inside, and the use of talisman seals was forbidden. Second, the ranking was based on the number of false pearls in the divine relic land. It was rumored that the divine relic land was transformed from the last city that the god had lived in. For some unknown reason, there were many things that looked like demonic beasts inside, so everyone named them false pearls. These paranoia beasts had brutal temperaments, strange appearances, and different innate abilities. However, there was a kind of shiny bead inside their bodies which they called the paranoia bead. This kind of paranoia bead had the effect of calming the qi and concentrating the mind. Wearing it for a long time could eliminate the inner demons, so it was very precious. As for the 3rd rule, it was basically negligible. Because the main idea of the 3rd rule was that friendship was first, and the competition was second, so no one should kill each other. After the rules were announced, it was time to open the enchantment. Lan Dimeo and the other 3 took out their jade tokens. After forming a seal, a transparent enchantment appeared in front of everyone. Everyone entered the enchantment one by one. Yin Chuzhou was worried about whether the small silver snake could enter, so she was the last one. This guy first put the sleeve bag containing the small silver snake into the enchantment. Seeing that there was nothing unusual, he walked into the enchantment. When Yin Chuzhou was teleported in, she found that the 9 members of the Lan family were surrounded by the other 3 families. They actually wanted to make a move now. The faces of the members of the Lan family were full of nervousness and fear. They had never thought that the other 3 families would actually choose to make a move as soon as they entered the mystic realm. 10 versus 30, they had no chance of winning at all. Yin Chuzhou saw the situation and laughed lightly. What? You want to attack now? Fine, let's do it. Lan Luoyin and the others were furious. This Yin Chuzhou was not in her right mind, right? She actually urged them to attack? Alpha Delta Theta Nu Epsilon. Yin Chuzhou sneered and said, the people of the Lan family, listen to this captain. In a while, whichever family of the 3 families attacks first, we will focus on attacking that family's people. If we can't recover, they can forget about it. The expressions of Mu Zian, Zhuang Shurchen, and Qi Tianhui changed slightly. They were not stupid, so they naturally understood the hidden meaning in Yin Chuzhou's words. Whichever family made the first move, the Lan family would fight with whichever family. The family that made the first move would suffer more serious casualties compared to the other 2 families. In this way, not only would the results of the trial be affected, but the divine relic land was very dangerous. Losing one person would increase the danger. Therefore, for the time being, none of the three families wanted to make the first move. Seeing this, Yun Chujio said faintly, "If I were you, I would wait until the trial is about to end before making a move. After all, in a sense, we are all in the same boat now. The wild beasts in the divine relic land are extremely ferocious. Moreover, it is said that there are many strange and terrifying things. Instead of wasting your spiritual power on us, why don't you think about how to keep your lives?" Mu Zian and the other two looked at each other again. For a moment they were hesitant. Roalfadialfa and Nu Omian Chujio waved her claws at Lan Luoyen and the others. "What are you all standing there for? Follow me to the front to take a look." Although Lan Luoyen and the others were dissatisfied with Yun Chujio and looked down on her, they were extremely obedient at this moment and followed behind Yun Chujio. Mu Zian clenched her fists but ultimately did not give the order to attack. That bitch Yun Chujio was right. The most important thing now was to protect themselves. As for the Lan family, they could wait until the end of the trial to deal with them. Moreover, the Zhuang family and Qi family might not be that trustworthy. If their Mu family suffered a heavy blow, the other two families might take advantage of it. Zhuang Shurchen and Qi Tianhui obviously thought the same, so they did not give the order to attack. Therefore, Yun Chujio swaggered out of the encirclement with the Lan family members. The Lan family members wiped the cold sweat from their foreheads. Some of them had a slightly better impression of Yun Chujio. After all, if it were not for her words, there would be a bloody battle. Seeing that the other three families had no intention to kill them, Lan Luoyen snorted and said, "Yun Chujio, don't think that your words worked. I don't think the Mu family intended to do anything. They were just trying to scare us." Lan Luoshan said gently, "Luoyen, it's inappropriate for you to say that. Although the three families are trying to scare us, little sister Jio's words also played a role." Yun Chujio turned around and looked at the two of them. "You can either shut up or let me cut off your tongues. It's your choice." Lan Luoyen immediately shouted in exasperation, "Yun Chujio, do you really think you're so great? Let me tell you, there's no ancestor to support you in this divine relic land. If you don't know your place, the one who will die will be you." Before Yun Chujio could speak, Lan Luomu spoke unhappily, "Shut up. Can't you see that the three families have already caught up? If there's another internal conflict, none of us will survive." Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders and didn't say anything. This Lan Luomu wasn't stupid to the extreme. Lan Luoyen was startled by Lan Luma's vicious gaze and didn't dare to speak anymore. Lan Lushan's expression did not change, as if nothing had happened. The divine relic land was actually a grand city. According to the people who had entered before, the grandeur of the city was beyond their imagination. Yun Chujio and the rest were only outside the city. It would take them at least half a day to enter the city. Mu Zian and the others had already caught up, but they had no intention of attacking. It was obvious that they had reached a consensus that they would not attack the Lan family for the time being. Even so, the members of the Lan family were on their guard. Who knew if they would attack them? Alpha D Alpha and Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Mth crisis was temporarily resolved, so Yun Chujio had the intention to look around. The surroundings were very barren. There were only some jagged rocks on the ground, and there was not even a single wild grass. It gave people a desolate and dilapidated feeling. Fortunately, according to the records, the distance between the barrier and the city was not dangerous, so everyone was not so nervous. Clouds and mist lingered in the distance, so everyone did not see the so-called magnificent city. However, half a day later, when the clouds and mist dispersed, everyone saw the city in the distance, and they were all dumbfounded. Roalfadialfa and Nu Omo, my God. The city in front of them had completely exceeded their knowledge, because this city was not only so big that they could not see the end of it, but it actually spiraled up layer by layer, as if it was soaring into the sky. Oh my God, this was too shocking. At this moment, Zhuang Shurchen said with some doubt, I heard from the elders in my family that although this divine relic land was originally spiraling up, it was said that when they came before there were only 3 layers. But I think there should be at least 18 layers now? What's going on? Could it be that something has happened?" His words caused a resonance. After all, this divine relic land opened once every 30 years, and many people had entered before. Qi Tianhui smiled and said, "Brother Zhuang, you're worrying too much. The more layers there are in the city, the more treasures and inheritances we can obtain. This is a great thing." Zhuang Shurchen thought about it and it made sense. Moreover, they had no other choice but to enter the city. This was because although the barrier at the entrance was outside the city, the barrier at the exit was inside the city after a month. Even if there was something wrong, they had to enter the city, Everyone discussed as they continued on their journey. Finally, they reached the outside of the city. The land of divine relics was what outsiders called it. The city had an extremely majestic name, the Supreme City. These 4 words were written in ancient characters. Although the ancient characters had basically been lost, the frequency of these 4 words was relatively high, so everyone could still recognize them. Yun Chujio looked at the 4 words and thought that the god who originally lived here had a sense of superiority. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come up with such a name. However, things were hard to predict. Even if it used to be very glorious, it had now become the past. Everyone praised and discussed for a while, and then their gazes fell on the huge city gate. At a glance, everyone couldn't help but exclaim, "Heavens! Heavens! This city gate is actually made of 10,000-year-old dark steel." Everyone's eyes revealed greed and shock. Even the palm-sized 10,000-year-old dark steel was an existence that people would go crazy for outside, but it was actually only used to make a city gate here? It was simply a reckless waste of heaven's gift. If they could keep this 10,000-year-old dark steel, heavens, it would be an earth-shattering wealth. However, everyone could only think about it. After all, the 10,000-year-old dark steel was extremely sturdy and could not be cut. Moreover, the weight of the 10,000-year-old dark steel was extremely shocking. They had no way of taking this city gate away. Hei Shinjio touched her chin. This was really a good thing. If the little flame was powerful in the future, she could forge the 2 city gates into many puppets. Just thinking about it would be beautiful. Of course, this fellow was only thinking about it. She had no way of keeping the 2 city gates. At this moment, the 2 city gates were closed. Everyone looked at each other. How could they enter? At this moment, the city gates slowly opened. There seemed to be an ethereal celestial music coming from inside. Everyone could not help but have a misconception. It was as if they were not here for the trial but had already cultivated and entered the immortal realm. Everyone was stunned for a moment, and then they excitedly entered the Supreme City. Yun Chujio stayed at the back and slowly walked into the Supreme City. The moment she entered, she heard everyone's exclamations. Previously, they had only seen the part that was as tall as the clouds. Now that they were inside, they were even more shocked. They were currently on an extremely wide street. The ground was paved with huge blue stones, and there were exquisite engravings on the blue stones. Roalfa Dialpha and Nu looking into the distance. They saw exquisite pavilions on both sides of the street. They did not know whether they were residences or shops. Although it was desolate outside the city, it was as if time had stopped inside the Supreme City. The ground was as clean as new, and the pavilions did not have the slightest bit of decadence. If they did not know that this was only a divine relic, they might really think that there were gods living here. After everyone was shocked, they could not wait to rush forward. There might be treasures or inheritances in each of the pavilions. Naturally, the earlier they entered, the better. Lan Luoyen and the others also had greedy looks on their faces. Just as they were about to rush forward, they heard Yun Chujio faintly say, "If you are not afraid of death, then chase after them. If you listen to me, then obediently stay here and watch the show." Alpha Dialphing Eta Theta Nu Epsilon Theta M. I don't know if there are any powerful wild beasts, but if you and the other 3 families fight for the treasures, they won't have so many concerns and will directly attack. Since I've said so much, it's up to you. Anyway, I'm not going in, Yun Chujio said indifferently. Lan Luoyen immediately stopped her footsteps when she heard that, obviously afraid. Lan Luofang naturally followed Yun Chujio's lead. She asked, "Little Jio, what you said makes sense. But if we don't go in, where are we going?" The corners of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. "Well, wait here. It's also good to let them explore the way." Chapter 50:16 The night scene. Lan Luomu and the others looked at each other. Their original plan was to get rid of Yun Chujio and Lan Luofang once they entered the city. However, after what happened earlier, they were a little hesitant, so they didn't say anything and tacitly agreed with Yun Chujio's decision. Therefore, the Lan family members waited near the city gate, ready to see what the other 3 families were going through. An hour later, people came out from the pavilions by the side of the street one after another, all of them beaming with joy. "Haha! I actually got a low-grade immortal artifact. Although it's not a high-grade one, it's already very good to have such a harvest as soon as I entered. Congratulations, congratulations. I also found a heaven-grade herb that's already extinct outside. The land of God relics really lives up to its reputation. Yes, our harvest this time will definitely be very rich. No wonder the family members are all fighting to participate in this trial." Almost everyone who came out of the trial had gained something, and they were all beaming with joy. Lan Luoyen glared at Yun Chujio when she saw this. Look, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you stopping us, we would all be rich. Yun Chujio glanced at her. I'm not tying your legs. If you want to go, then go. You? Lan Luoyen was almost beaten to death. She wanted to go, but she was afraid of being attacked by the other three families. Yun Chujio stretched and said faintly, think about it. You want to die or you want to get rich? Anyway, I want to die. As for those treasures, I'm not greedy and I won't take the risk to snatch them. Everyone from the Lan family had different expressions, but no one said anything else. The people from the other three families went along the street to plunder the pavilions one by one, and they all gained a lot. When they saw that the Lan family didn't dare to fight with them, they all looked proud. As time passed, the other three families went further and further away, and they were almost out of the sight of the people from the Lan family. At this time, the sky gradually darkened. Lan Luoyen anxiously circled a few times and said, Yun Chujio, what do you mean? Don't tell me we have to wait at the city gate all the time? Do you know that the enchantment outside might be in those palaces hovering above? If we can't find the exact location, we can only be trapped here. It's the same as before. If you want to leave, no one will stop you. Lan Luoyen was so angry that she was twitching. She wanted to leave, but she didn't dare to leave alone. Yun Chujio took out a meat bun and started to eat it. Of course, she didn't forget to put one in her sleeve pocket to prevent a certain person from starving. Everyone was also hungry, but most of them ate fasting pills, so it was more convenient for them to train outside. Yun Chujio took out a talisman and a formation plate to try it out, and sure enough, there was no effect at all. She tried to release the puppet again, but it did not succeed. This fellow calculated in her heart. Although this supreme city looked very high and mighty, she would not be naive enough to think that this was a good place to pick up scraps. She did not ignore what Zhuang Shurchen had said earlier. Previously, there were only 3 floors in those spiraling places, but now there were so many more floors. It might not be a good thing. At this moment, Lan Luoyen and the others cried out in surprise. As it turned out, as night fell, the entire supreme city was resplendent. Every building actually emitted a lustrous glow. It was very beautiful and magnificent. Chapter 50:17 was also idle. Lan Luofeng, who was beside Yun Chujio, praised, "Oh my God, this is too beautiful. As expected of the supreme city, the night here is even more beautiful than the day." Yun Chujio did not think much of this. After all, she had seen the night scene of the modern city, so this was nothing. However, for Lan Luofeng and the others, they were really shocked. Yun Chujio told them about the arrangements for the night shift, but no one had any objections. At first, everyone was worried about what would happen at night, but after a night, everything went as usual, and their originally tense hearts relaxed a little. After daybreak, Lan Luoyen was making a racket and rushing on her way. They were here for the trial, not to meditate. She didn't want to stay at the city gate all the time. Since nothing happened last night, everyone's thoughts became active. Hence they all agreed. Lan Luoshan saw that Yun Chujio did not express her stance. She said gently, "Little sister Jio, if you are afraid, you can wait for us here. We will come and look for you after we find the exit enchantment." Yun Chujio curled her lips. "All right. If you insist on going, I will wait for you here." Lan Lushan's eyes flashed with viciousness when she heard this. Who would come back to look for her? She would just wait here to die. With Lan Luoyen and Lan Luoshan taking the lead, most of the people immediately got up and prepared to leave. Only Lan Luofeng, Lan Luomu, and Lan Luofeng did not move. Lan Luofeng was He Xinjia's little follower, so she naturally would not leave. Lan Luomu had suffered a few losses from Yun Chujio. He felt that since Yun Chujio did not leave, she must have her own plans, so after weighing the pros and cons, he decided to stay. As for Lan Luozi's thoughts, Yun Chujio was an iron rooster who did not give out a single cent. She was more greedy than anyone else. However, she did not pick up any scraps. This meant that there must be something wrong. Lan Luoyen and the rest were focused on picking up scraps. Hence they tried to persuade them. When they saw that Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji had no intention of leaving, they decided to ignore the two of them and quickly rushed forward. Although they didn't dare to fight with the Mu family, they might find something unexpected if they searched through the pavilions that they had already looted. Yun Chujio looked at Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji and smiled. "Come, we have nothing to do. Let's play cards." Lan Luomu, Lan Luoji, how dare you? You still have the mood to play cards at this time? However, in the end they could not resist Yun Chujio's urging and the 4 of them began to play cards. The little silver snake in Yun Chujio's sleeve pocket was not in a good mood at this moment. This was because ever since he left the Lan family, he had never had the chance to speak to Yun Chujio in order to avoid being discovered. Now that he heard her and Lan Luomu chatting and laughing, his heart felt sour. Moreover, ever since he entered the Supreme City, he had inexplicably disliked this place. A certain honored warrior was in a bad mood and started to fiddle around in his sleeve pocket in an attempt to attract Hei Xinjia's attention. However, Hei Xinjia was having fun and only poked his head with her finger, ignoring him. A certain honored warrior felt even more depressed, but there was nothing he could do. He could only sulk alone in his sleeve pocket. Lan Luoyin and the others originally thought that the Mu family had already ransacked the pavilions and that they would not be able to find anything valuable. However, they did not expect that they would actually reap such a bountiful harvest. Everyone's faces were filled with joy. It seemed that opportunities were not something that could be snatched away. Chapter 50 18 Wild Beasts. At this moment, Mu Zian and the others had already turned onto another street. The pavilions on both sides of this street were more exquisite than before, and their harvest was also more bountiful. Everyone was overjoyed. It seemed that their luck was really good. Not only did they not encounter the wild beasts, but they also obtained so many treasures. Soon another day passed and night fell once again. Mu Zian and the others were still somewhat vigilant, so they did not continue to plunder at night. Instead they camped on the streets. The night gradually deepened and everyone began to feel drowsy. This was when the people in charge of keeping watch were shocked to discover that the bright light had disappeared, and the entire Supreme City had fallen into darkness. Immediately they felt a little panicked and hurriedly woke everyone up. Everyone also felt that something was wrong. They all took out their illuminating items and stared at their surroundings vigilantly. Eehee. Suddenly, the crisp laughter of a woman could be heard from their surroundings. However, this laughter was especially terrifying in the dark night. Everyone knew that there were no humans in the Divine Relic Land. Why would there be the laughter of a woman? Just as everyone was panicking, the pavilion closest to them lit up, and a beautiful young lady walked out. The young lady's smile was very charming and cute, and some of the men in the group could not help but look a little infatuated. The young lady said softly, "Everyone, since we are already at the entrance of our Jia residence, why don't you come in and have a seat? Why do you have to sleep outside?" A few men could not help but take a few steps forward. At this moment Zhuang Shichen shouted sternly, "Be careful. There's no one here. There must be something fishy about this girl." The few men were startled by Zhuang Shichen's shout and immediately retreated in fear. That's right, there shouldn't be any living people here. This young girl was definitely not human. The young lady stomped her feet delicately. This young master's words hurt my heart too much. I invited all of you to be my guests out of goodwill, yet you guys didn't appreciate it. Since that's the case, then I can only use force. After saying that, the young lady walked towards the crowd. Everyone was very scared and involuntarily retreated. However, they never expected that an identical young lady would appear behind them. She also walked towards them delicately. Immediately, everyone released their spiritual beasts and attacked the two young ladies. However, the two young ladies mysteriously disappeared. Everyone became more and more fearful. Sometimes, powerful enemies that they could see were not scary. What made people fearful was the enemies that were hidden. At this moment, there was a strange laughter coming from the surroundings. The courtyard that the girl had invited them into had turned into a species that they had never seen before. Everyone looked at that thing in fear. It was very huge, almost the size of a pavilion. Its body looked like a huge toad. Its body was covered in a foul-smelling mucus. It had two heads and both looked like the girl from before, but they were magnified several times. A thought suddenly flashed through everyone's mind. A wild beast. This was the legendary wild beast. One of the heads of the wild beast said in a hoarse voice, "Sister, it's been a long time since we've eaten fresh human meat. We can have a full meal today." The other head said softly, "Sister, it's still the same old rules. The man belongs to me and the woman belongs to you." Chapter 50 19 Wang Zhu. When Mu Zian and the others heard that this beast could not only speak human language, but also seemed to have two souls, they could not help but feel even more terrified. At this point, everyone had no other choice. They all transformed into spirit beasts and fought with this toad beast. The toad beast's attack method was the mucus on its body. One of the Mu family disciples was accidentally sprayed by the mucus on his body and instantly bled to death from all 7 orifices. The head with the soft voice immediately stuck out its tongue with barbs and sucked the corpse of the disciple into its mouth. Seeing this, everyone was scared and nauseated. They could only raise their spiritual energy shields to prevent themselves from being hit by the mucus. Although the toad beast was terrifying, it was fortunate that they had many people. After more than an hour they finally killed the toad beast. The moment the toad-like beast died, its huge body turned into nothingness, leaving only a shiny pearl on the ground. Mu Zian immediately took a step forward and picked up the pearl. She smiled at Zhuang Shurchen and Qi Tianhui and said, "The two of you don't have to worry too much. Since our three families are in an alliance, the pearl will naturally be divided equally. Next time the two of you can take the pearl." Zhuang Shurchen and Qi Tianhui did not say anything after hearing this. After all, a disciple of the Mu family had died this time, so it was only right for the Mu family to get a Wangzhu first. The Wangzhu is even more ferocious than we thought. Fortunately, the three of us have formed an alliance. Otherwise it would have been a disaster. However, according to our Zhuang family's elder, only a Wangzhu with 3 levels of levitation would have such strength. Why would there be such a powerful Wangzhu here? If the beasts here were so terrifying, wouldn't the floating palaces be even more terrifying? If the enchantment outside is set up in the floating palace on the highest floor, I'm afraid we won't be able to get out, Zhuang Shurchen said in a low voice. When everyone heard this, they immediately revealed terrified expressions. That's right. This was only the outer street, but there was already such a terrifying beast here. Would they still be able to survive? Qi Tianhui cleared his throat. Brother Zhuang, you don't have to be so pessimistic. Maybe the beast that we killed earlier ran out from the levitation layer. As long as we work together, we will definitely be able to leave this place safely. Mu Zian also echoed, "That's right, everyone doesn't have to worry too much. Maybe this is just an accident." When everyone heard this, they finally calmed down slightly. However, as the sky gradually brightened, they could no longer maintain their composure. At this moment, a disciple cried out in horror, "What's going on?" Everyone looked at him and saw that he was holding a rock in his left hand and a withered branch in his right hand. How did my immortal sword and heaven-ranked Dracena turn into a rock and a withered branch? The disciple asked in disbelief. The others subconsciously checked their storage rings and found that the treasures they had found in excitement 2 days ago had also turned into rocks and withered branches. Some of them were even withered bones. At this time, He Xinjiu was still sleeping soundly at the city gate, while Lan Luoyen and the others were sitting at the side with ugly expressions. Last night, when they saw the mountain-like wild beast in the distance, they were so scared that their souls almost disappeared. They even ran back, rolling and crawling. Now they tragically discovered that the treasures they had picked up were all a pile of junk, and they almost died of anger. They could imagine that when the troublemaker woke up, he would be sneering at them. Chapter 50-20. The pill given by Elder Tua. When the sun rose high into the sky, Yun Chujio finally opened her eyes lazily. She sized up Lan Luoyen and the others and asked suspiciously, Didn't you guys go to make a fortune? Why are you back? Lan Luoyen and the others' expressions became even more unsightly. Lan Luoyen said snappily, "Are you blind? Didn't you see the appearance of a wild beast last night?" Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. The way she looked at Lan Luoyen made Lan Luoyen shudder. "Are you going to slap yourself, or do you want me to do it?" Yun Chujio said coldly. Lan Luoyen said fiercely, "Yun Chujio, you dare? This is not the imperial city, slap." Before she could finish her words, she received a slap from Yun Chujio. Her entire left face was swollen. Lan Luoyen covered her face and was about to curse when she heard Yun Chujio say coldly, "If you keep talking, I'll cut off your tongue. If you don't believe me, you can try." Lan Luoshan quickly pulled Lan Luoyen behind her and said gently, "Luoyen, don't say too much. Little sister Jiao is the team leader, and the old ancestor said not to disobey her orders. How can you go against her?" As soon as Lan Luoshan finished her words, Yun Chujio said coldly, "Lan Luoshan, don't embarrass yourself in front of me with your white lotus tricks. You said these words to persuade Lan Luoyen, but in fact, you are provoking everyone to be dissatisfied with me. You better put away your shameful thoughts or I don't mind killing you." Lan Lushan's face froze. She never thought that Yun Chujio would not only see through her thoughts, but also say it out loud and threaten her. Seeing this, Lan Luohan said coldly, "Yun Chujio, do you really think that we are afraid of you? Apologize to my sister or I will kill you." The corner of Yun Chujio's mouth curled up. "Kill me? If you are not afraid of death, feel free to do it." Lan Luohan could hear the hidden meaning in her words. "What do you mean by this?" Yun Chujio laughed lightly. "It's not that interesting. You all swallowed the pill that Elder Tua gave you, right? What kind of pill do you think it is? Everyone's expression changed drastically. Lan Luoyen cried out in shock. You mean that pill is poison? Yun Chujio shrugged her shoulders. I didn't say anything. Anyway, if anything happens to me, none of you will survive. Immediately they all sat down to inspect their bodies. Oh no, the moment I used my spiritual power, I felt a faint pain in my dantian. Lan Luoyen said with a sobbing voice. That's right. I also feel that something is wrong with my dantian, Lan Luoji echoed. When the two of them said that, the others also became terrified. They also felt that the situation in their dantian was not right. Could it be that the pills Elder Tua gave them were really poisonous pills? Lan Luoyen suddenly exclaimed, no wonder Elder Tua didn't give Yun Chujio the pills when he distributed them. They were well connected. Everyone recalled the situation at that time. It was true that Elder Tua didn't distribute the pills to Yun Chujio. Could it be that the old ancestor was afraid that they wouldn't listen to Yun Chujio's orders, so he ordered Elder Tua to poison them? Was the old ancestor muddle-headed? They were the descendants of the Lan family, yet they couldn't compare to Yun Chujio, a person with another surname? Chapter 50-21, Please address me as Captain. Yun Chujio looked at everyone's frightened or angry expressions and said coldly, I am the captain, so you must obey my orders unconditionally. If anyone dares to speak rudely to me or play any tricks, don't blame me for being impolite. Besides, you should all know that I value my life the most, so all I want is to leave this place safely. As long as you all listen to me, I promise to bring you all out of here safely. However, if some idiot makes his own decision, I won't be so kind as to save him. Do you all understand? As soon as Yun Chujio finished her words, only Lan Luofang said, I understand. The others didn't say anything. It was obvious that they were very dissatisfied with Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio walked to Lan Luoyen with a big kitchen knife and asked, Do you understand? Lan Luoyen took 2 steps back and gritted her teeth, I understand. Yun Chujio walked to Lan Luoshan and smiled, Sister Luoshan, you have always been the most righteous. Do you understand? Lan Luoshan clenched her hands under her sleeves and said stiffly, I understand. Yun Chujio then walked to Lan Luoji. Everyone was either afraid of the kitchen knife in Yun Chujio's hand or worried about the poison Elder Tua had given them. Under Yun Chujio's interrogation they all gave a positive answer. Yun Chujio nodded with satisfaction. Very good. Since you all have full confidence in me, then let's go now. Lan Luoyen saw that Yun Chujio actually wanted to enter the street ahead and said, Yun Chujio, the wild beast yesterday was so terrifying, yet you still brought us in? Yun Chujio glanced at her. If we don't go in, how are we going to find the enchantment? Also, please call me Captain, thank you. Lan Luoyen's nose almost went crooked from anger. If you have the ability to say thank you, don't point at that broken kitchen knife. Everyone also knew that they could only reach the floating layer above through the crisscrossing streets below, so they could only brace themselves and follow Yun Chujio into the streets. Yun Chujio walked as she looked at the ruins around her. From the exquisite decorations on it, one could see that this place used to be prosperous, but now it had become dilapidated. She did not know how the scene that everyone had seen before was formed, but she had a brain. This place opened once every 30 years. Most of the good things had already been plundered by others. It was obviously against common sense that everyone could find the good things so easily. Yun Chujio randomly picked a ruin and walked in. She took out a wooden stick from her storage ring and started rummaging through the ruins. Lan Luoyen pursed her lips and thought to herself, did this troublemaker think that she would find a treasure in this ruin? Dream on. However, she had learned her lesson. Although she thought so, she didn't dare to say it out loud. Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan stood at the back of the team. The siblings exchanged a look and looked at Yun Chujio with vicious eyes. Yun Chujio searched for a while but didn't find anything. Lan Luoyen pouted. She said that this troublemaker couldn't find anything. Then Yun Chujio picked a ruin every now and then and went in to search but found nothing. However, what everyone didn't expect was that the other 3 families actually returned and looked at them with hostility. Chapter 50-22, Then go ahead and kill him, Chi Tianhui said with a fake smile. It's better for the 4 families to advance and retreat together, so your Lan family should also join us. The faces of the Lan family members immediately changed. They were not fools, so they naturally understood the meaning behind Chi Tianhui's words. Was he planning to let them take the lead and send themselves to their deaths? However, there was a huge difference in strength between the 2 sides, so there was no room for them to refuse. Yun Chujio, on the other hand, looked relaxed and said with a smile, Sure, It's good to have more people to work with. Our Lan family can't wait for that. Hearing that, Chi Tianhui pursed his lips. Before coming here, the Qi family's ancestor had told him to pay attention to Yun Chujio. Now that he looked at her, not only was her spiritual power inferior to his, but her mind was also very simple. She was not worth mentioning at all. Previously, when Yun Chujio entered the wilderness, although the Lan family's ancestor knew about it, the other three families did not pay attention to the wilderness, so they did not know much about it. Therefore, although they noticed Yun Chujio, they did not take it too seriously. Mu Zian saw that Yun Chujio was full of promises, so she made up her mind. It was not too late to make use of her to make a trip to find the enchantment and then kill her. Of course, this bitch might be killed by the beast halfway. Zhuang Shichen had other thoughts. Previously, the Lan family had been watching at the city gate. Yun Chujio must have given the order. From the looks of it, Yun Chujio was definitely not a simple-minded person. Therefore, he paid more attention to Yun Chujio. At this time, it was almost afternoon. Everyone no longer had the mood to search for treasures. They only wanted to get to the levitation layer through these streets. However, Yun Chujio was going to the ruins by the roadside every now and then. Chi Tianhui said unhappily, Yun Chujio, if you delay any longer, don't blame us for being rude. Yun Chujio shrugged indifferently. What? We are all willing to be your scapegoats. Is it bothering you that I am going to drag the ruins? You? Chi Tianhui initially thought that Yun Chujio did not know their intentions, but now that she had made it clear, he did not know how to respond. Mu Zian, who was at the side, said, Captain Yun, what Captain Chi means is that this place is very dangerous. We should hurry to the levitation layer. The corners of Yun Chujio's lips curled up. Hurry up and die? Chi Tianhui couldn't take it anymore and said angrily, Yun Chujio, don't be so shameless. Your Lan family is like a turtle in a jar. It's already very kind of you not to kill you. Hurry up or I'll kill you. Yun Chujio glanced at him. Kill us? Then you should kill us. The two of them pulled him to the side and said in a low voice, Don't let your emotions get the best of you. We still need the Lan family to scout the way for us. It won't be too late to kill them after we find the enchantment. Chi Tianhui gritted his teeth and said, But that bitch has been stalling for time. Are we just going to let her be so arrogant? Zhuang Shichen looked at the sky and said, It's going to be dark soon. Even if she doesn't waste time, we should set up camp. Danger lurked everywhere, especially after what happened yesterday. Everyone dared not take any action at night. Hearing that, Chi Tianhui snorted and said, All right, then let that bitch go for now. If she still wastes time tomorrow, he'll show her some strength no matter what. Chapter 50-23 felt that this place was somewhat familiar after Mu Zian and the other two finished their discussion. They began to arrange for everyone to be stationed. Yun Chujio continued to rummage through the surrounding ruins. Lan Luofang was really curious, so she went over. Little Jiao, what are you looking for? Do you need me to help you find it? Yun Chujio shook her head. I'm just bored and randomly rummaging around. You don't have to care about me. Go and rest well. Who knows, there might be another beast attacking at night. Hearing her words, Lan Luofang could only return to the team. The pavilion that Yun Chujio was in at the moment was quite large. She entered the courtyard a few times before entering the second courtyard. Seeing that Yun Chujio had already left the others, the small silver snake lowered its voice and asked, Are you really going to be a scout for the Mu family? It's not certain who will take advantage of who. Are you too stifled in your sleeve pocket? They'll let you out to get some fresh air, Hei Shinjio said with a rare conscience. Yun Chujio immediately let out the small silver snake and let it coil around her arm. The small silver snake scanned its surroundings with its vertical pupils, and its gaze fell on a broken window lattice on the ground. After a long while, the small silver snake said, I don't know why, but I feel that this place is somewhat familiar. It's just that I don't like it here. Yun Chujio casually said, Weren't you the Lord of Shengzun in your previous life? Maybe you've been here before, so it's not surprising that you feel familiar. You're the Lord of Shengzun of Yen Clan, and this supreme city is the residence of the gods, so you naturally don't like it? Di Biming thought about it and this made sense. He saw that Yun Chujio had been using a wooden stick to dig through the ruins, and asked in puzzlement, What are you looking for? Yun Chujio giggled. I'm just looking through it. I'm very curious about how those gods live. Look at this fragment. It should be a piece of a bowl. Whether it's the material or the decorative patterns, they are all very exquisite. It can be seen that the life of the original gods was very extravagant. Di Biming looked at the fragment that Yun Chujio was pointing at and said with a hint of mockery, Maybe it's because they were so unambitious and content with pleasure that they all died in the end. It's possible, but the cultivation of a god is so abnormal. Who is so powerful that they could annihilate the entire celestial race? Yun Chujio asked in confusion. Di Biming shook his head. This has always been a mystery. Perhaps I will only know after I break all the seals. There were some dry bones occasionally found in these ruins, but these dry bones belonged to spirit beasts or demonic beasts. There were no human dry bones. At this time, the sky had already darkened. Seeing that there was nothing, Yun Chujio put the small silver snake back into her sleeve pocket and slowly walked out. After walking out of the second courtyard, Yun Chujio felt that something was wrong. Logically speaking, Mu Zian and the rest should have been camping on the street. Why was there no light ahead? Even if Mu Zian and the rest had encountered a wild beast, they should not have been so quiet. From the looks of it, there must be something wrong with where she was. If an ordinary person were to encounter such a situation, they would definitely be shocked and scared. However, the corner of He Xinjia's mouth curled up. Interesting. She stopped and raised her spiritual energy barrier. Then she said with a smile, "Come out. What's the point of hiding?" There was no movement around them. Yun Chujio added, "TSK. Since you are so timid, don't follow my example and attack me at night. It's really embarrassing." Chapter 50-24. The fox-like beast. As soon as Yun Chujio finished speaking, a broken wall in front of them suddenly turned into a fox-like beast. The fox-like beast looked similar to a fox, except that it had two huge fangs on its mouth, emitting a faint blue light. Following the appearance of the fox-like beast, the people stationed outside noticed that the courtyard where Yun Chujio entered was shrouded in thick fog. Lan Luofeng immediately stood up. "Little Jiao is still inside. Did something happen? Let's go in and take a look." However, no one responded to her words. The three families of the Mu family didn't need to say anything. They couldn't be bothered to care about Yun Chujio's life or death. Everyone from the Lan family had their own thoughts and didn't have any intention of saving her. Lan Luofeng stomped her feet in anger and charged towards the courtyard by herself. As she ran, she shouted, Little Jiao, are you all right?" However, no one spoke. She gritted her teeth and charged into the thick fog. Lan Luoyen pursed her lips. What an idiot. It was good that she was dead. She deserved it. After Lan Luofeng charged into the fog, she saw Yun Chujio and the fox-like beast immediately. She immediately ran to Yun Chujio's side. The fox-like beast laughed strangely. "Another one came in? Good, very good. We can have a good meal today. You two little things, kill yourselves?" Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Where did you get the courage to make us kill ourselves? Could it be that your big teeth gave you the courage?" The fox-like beast was stunned. The humans who came in here would be terrified when they saw them. Not only was this little girl not afraid, she even dared to mock its fangs? She was really courting death. The fox-like beast immediately roared. As it roared, Lan Luofeng's eyes became blurred. She could not help but walk towards the fox-like beast. Yun Chujio took out a silver needle and pricked Lan Luofeng's arm. Lan Luofeng cried out in pain and immediately woke up. Yun Chujio stuffed the needle into her hand. "If you feel that something is wrong, stab yourself." The fox-like beast revealed a surprised expression. "Why aren't you afraid of my demonic roar?" Yun Chujio snorted. "It sounds so terrible, and you still have the nerve to call it a demonic roar. Do you want to dig out the pearl and give it to me, or do you want me to do it?" The fox-like beast roared in exasperation. "Stupid girl, do you think that's all I have? You're courting death." Yun Chujio and Lan Luofeng hurriedly set up their spiritual energy shields and looked around vigilantly. "Little Jiao, why did it suddenly disappear?" Lan Luofeng asked as she pricked herself with a silver needle. Yun Chujio couldn't help but laugh. That fox-like beast had stopped barking, so why was she still pricking it? However, this guy didn't warn Lan Luofeng but said, "That fox-like beast is good at illusion. It should have transformed into something else. Then what should we do?" Yun Chujio curled the corner of her mouth. "It's simple. Let it appear on its own." As Yun Chujio spoke, she threw a sack of chili noodles at her surroundings. Soon after, she heard the howling of the fox-like beast. Yun Chujio struck out several bolts of lightning in the direction where the howling came from. Then she heard the frightened voice of the fox-like beast. "Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root. You actually have a Heavenly Thunder Spirit Root." Yun Chujio did not reply. Instead, she shot out several bolts of lightning with flames mixed within. The fox-like beast let out a miserable cry and revealed itself. However, its fur had already been burned by the flames of the small flame, causing it to roll on the ground in pain. Chapter 50-25. Two delusional pearls in hand. Yunchujio raised her hand again and hacked at the fox-like delusional beast. The fox was cunning, and even if it was a delusional beast, she did not dare to be careless. The fox-like delusional beast should not have any other abilities other than the illusion and the previous phantom roar. Otherwise it would not have set up a sneak attack here. After a moment, it was burned to death by Yunchujio. The fox-like beast's corpse disappeared, and a pearl appeared on the ground. Yunchujio went forward to pick up the pearl and looked at it. She sniffed it again, but she couldn't tell what it was. So she put the pearl into her storage ring. At this time the sound of a fight could be heard from outside. Lan Luofang's arm was pierced by dozens of needles. She was in so much pain that she asked, "Little Jiu, we seem to have encountered a beast outside. Should we go out and help?" Yunchujio glanced at her. "Are you stupid? Why do you care about those idiots? Come, let's squat on top of the wall and watch the show." Lan Luofang thought of what had happened before and gritted her teeth. Those people did not care about little Jiu's life and death. They deserved it. Thus, she followed Yunchujio and jumped on top of a broken wall, watching the fight not far away. At this time the one fighting with Mu Zian and the others was a lizard-like beast. The lizard-like beast was very huge and its forked tongue kept spitting venom. Mu Zian and the others could only use their spiritual energy barrier to fight with the lizard-like beast. Fortunately, there were many of them, and after nearly 15 minutes they finally killed the lizard-like beast. After the lizard beast's corpse disappeared, there was a pearl on the ground. Because the toad pearl from before had been taken by Mu Zian, Zhuang Shurchen and Qi Tianhui wanted to pick up the lizard pearl. However, the two of them were still concerned about their reputation, so neither of them had the face to go forward first. Just as the two of them were hesitating, someone picked up the lizard pearl first. TSK, you guys are quite particular. But that's true. Our Lan family is a new member, so naturally we have to go first. As Yunchujio spoke, she put the lizard pearl into her storage ring very naturally. "Yunchujio, hand over the pearl or don't blame me for being rude." Yunchujio did not even look at him. Instead, she found a relatively clean place to lay a blanket on and fell asleep. Qi Tianhui wanted to go forward, but he was stopped by Mu Zian. Mu Zian said softly, "Her things will fall into our hands sooner or later. Why should we lower ourselves to her level?" Zhuang Shurchen also advised from the side. Qi Tianhui glared at Yunchujio fiercely and gave up on the idea of attacking. Zhuang Shurchen changed the topic and mentioned the lizard beast from before. "I think the lizard beast today is much weaker than the toad beast from yesterday." Qi Tianhui said proudly, "It seems that my guess yesterday was right. The toad beast from yesterday must have really escaped from the levitation layer. We don't have to worry too much." Zhuang Shurchen and Mu Zian nodded. Mu Zian raised her eyebrows. "Oh right, why was there a fog in the courtyard that Yunchujio entered?" "They'll call Lan Luofang over and ask." After Mu Zian finished speaking, she called Lan Luofang over. "What happened between you and Yunchujio?" Yunchujio had already instructed Lan Luofang when she was watching the show. Hence, Lan Luofang lied through her teeth. "There was a mist inside. After Xiao Jiu and I met, we finally walked out." Chapter 50-26 is still on it. Mu Zian was skeptical of Lan Luofang's words and felt that Lan Luofang was not telling the truth. Qi Tianhui said with disdain, "If there's really something wrong inside, can they still come out alive? Who cares if there's anything wrong with them, we won't go in." Mu Zian thought about it and agreed, so she let Lan Luofang go back. Lan Luofang heaved a sigh of relief. She saw that the fox-like beast was burned to death by a ball of fire, not struck to death by Yunchujio's heavenly lightning. Although she was very curious, she still tactfully did not ask Yunchujio. When she came, Jia Shi had instructed her to follow Yunchujio, and to listen more and ask less. She knew that not only was her strength weak, but her brain was also not very flexible, so she decided to listen to her mother's words and cling tightly to Yunchujio's thigh. In the second half of the night, another lizard beast came to attack everyone. Everyone quickly fought with the lizard beast, and only Hei Xinjiu hid in the corner and continued to sleep soundly. Lan Luofang had finally opened her eyes. She did not put in any effort. Although she was shouting happily, she basically did not make any moves. When the lizard beast was killed, Hei Xinjiu rushed over with lightning speed and put away the bead again. Qi Tianhui was so angry that he wanted to kill Yunchujio. In the end he was stopped by Mu Zian and Zhuang Shurchen. Lan Luoshan looked at Yunchujio with disdain. Yun Chujio was really courting death. Sooner or later she would anger Qi Tianhui and see how she would end up. The next morning, everyone continued on their journey. As cannon fodder, the Lan family naturally led the way. Yun Chujio hummed a tune as she hopped forward. It was as if this wasn't a dangerous place but a sunny countryside. Everyone pursed their lips. This Yun Chujio was really heartless. They didn't know why the Lan family chose her to be their leader. However, Yun Chujio suddenly stopped and pointed at the ruins beside her. We were here yesterday. We should have gotten lost, right? Qi Tianhui said disdainfully, what nonsense are you talking about? We were clearly walking forward, how could we be lost? Moreover, the ruins on both sides are similar. How do you know that this is the place we passed by yesterday? Everyone followed Yun Chujio's finger and looked over. Indeed, they saw a vivid picture of a little bastard on a broken wall. Everyone was dumbfounded. Even if they did not look closely, they knew that this little bastard was definitely not left behind. It must have been drawn by Yun Chujio. After all, no one would be idle enough to draw a little bastard on the wall to play with. So, they were really lost? However, they had been walking along the street, how could they be lost? Zhuang Shichen looked at Yun Chujio with some inquiry. Did she accidentally or intentionally mark the wall? However, the most important thing now was to get rid of the dilemma of being lost. However, how could they get rid of it? He looked up at the sun and said, I remember that the levitation layer is in the west. We will determine the direction according to the sun and not stick to these streets. Everyone immediately nodded in agreement and set off again. This time, when Yun Chujio went to the ruins again, although everyone was still dissatisfied, they did not say anything. After all, if Yun Chujio had not gone to the ruins earlier, they would still be walking in circles. Chapter 50:27 Wine. After walking for a while in the direction of the sun, they found that there was something strange about the streets here. They looked horizontal and vertical, but in fact they were not. If they followed the direction of the streets, they would unknowingly turn in circles. They also found that as the journey progressed, the pavilions on both sides of the road were more and more intact. Although it was also very dilapidated, at least the original general structure could still be seen, unlike the previous ones which were only left with broken walls. However, the group no longer had the courage to go in and search for it. Although the treasure was good, life was more important. Yun Chujio did not care about that. Whichever house was pleasing to the eye, she would go in and take a look. Although they did not find any treasure, they managed to gather a large amount of rubbish and even removed a door plank from the house. Qi Tianhui wanted to throw a tantrum a few times, but he was stopped by Zhuang Shichen. Brother Qi, although Yun Chujio is wandering around inside, she can catch up to us every time. She did not delay our progress, so let's not argue with her. Zhuang Shichen felt that Yun Chujio was not simple. He might as well see what she wanted to do. Moreover, it was not too late to kill her after they found the enchantment. They had already traveled for 3 days, but they were still quite a distance away from the levitation layer. Everyone could not help but sigh at the magnificence of this supreme city. One could imagine how prosperous the supreme city was when it was prosperous back then. Yun Chujio saw a dilapidated wine stall hanging at the entrance of a pavilion next to them. She could not help but raise her eyebrows. Could this place be a restaurant? TSK, a restaurant of the celestial race. She had to go in and take a look. Thus, this guy once again went into the pavilion. Everyone was already used to her going in to collect junk from time to time. They ignored her and continued to move forward. Anyway, after she finished digging, she would be able to catch up with them. After Yun Chujio entered, she found that although it was very dilapidated inside, she could vaguely tell that there were counters and scattered tables. It seemed like it really was a restaurant. Since it was a restaurant, there should be good wine. Therefore, this guy ran to the backyard and rummaged through it. He then let out the peach blossoms to smell. It really let her find an extremely hidden underground wine cellar. When this guy saw that the wine cellar was filled with wine jars, he was so happy that his eyelashes were almost blooming. Damn, this wine was at least tens of thousands of years old. He was rich. The more he thought about it, the happier he became. He walked in front of a jar, carefully opened the wine seal on it, and then he was miserable. This wine was originally very fragrant and mellow. In addition to the fact that it had been sealed for such a long time, the smell of the wine inside had already become so strong that it was almost solid. Hey Shinjio, who had a poor tolerance for alcohol, passed out just like that. The peach blossom choked and passed out. If the small silver snake in his sleeve was not injured, the smell of alcohol would not have affected him. However, he was severely injured and had a snake body, so he was dizzy. Although he struggled hard, he still passed out. Mu Zian and the others realized that Yun Chujio did not follow them. Although they were reluctant, they still sent people back to check. Lan Luofeng originally wanted to follow them, but Lan Luoshan asked Lan Luofeng and Mu Zian to say something. Mu Zian sent people to stop Lan Luofeng. Because the wine cellar was very hidden, the people sent to look around did not find Yun Chujio, so they went back to report. Mu Zian and the others were in a hurry to go to the levitation layer, so after a discussion, they decided not to care about Yun Chujio's life. Lan Luofeng was forced by the crowd, so she could only follow them and continue their journey. She hoped that Yun Chujio would be safe and sound. Chapter 50-28. In the next 2 days, Mu Zian and the others' journey was considered smooth. Although the number of wild beasts that came to attack at night had increased, they had the advantage of numbers. It was not too strenuous and there were no casualties. That night, everyone found a place to temporarily camp. Qi Tianhui said with a slightly happy expression, "Tomorrow night, we should be able to reach the bottom of the levitation layer. It seems that this supreme city is not as terrifying as we imagined." Zhuang Shurchen said with some disapproval, "Brother Qi, don't be too optimistic." It was said that the wild beasts in the levitation layer were much more terrifying than the wild beasts on the streets. Moreover, not only were there wild beasts, there were also many strange things. We cannot let down our guard. Qi Tianhui snorted coldly, "What are you afraid of? At worst we can let the Lan family take the lead. It's just a pity that Yun Chujio is already dead. It's too good for her." Zhuang Shurchen frowned. "Yun Chujio might not be dead. Maybe she went somewhere else." "That's impossible. She's not a fool. Supreme City is so dangerous. If she acts alone, she'll be courting death," Mu Zian said from the side. She was sure that Yun Chujio must have met with an accident. She really deserved it. Zhuang Shurchen did not say anything more when he saw the two of them say so. However, he felt that Yun Chujio was not simple. How could she die so silently? There must be something else going on. At this moment, everyone from the Lan family was sitting together with different expressions. Lan Luofeng was worried about Yun Chujio's safety and had a worried expression on her face. Lan Luoyen, on the other hand, had a gloating expression on her face. From time to time, she would use words to mock Lan Luofeng. Lan Luofeng had learned to be smart now. No matter how Lan Luofeng provoked her, she would not respond. She was alone now and did not have little Jiao to support her. It was better for her to endure it first. Lan Lushan's lips curled into a cold smile as she mocked in her heart. A bunch of idiots. At this moment, the ground began to tremble slightly. Everyone stood up in shock. What was going on? A moment later, someone pointed into the distance in horror. There are a lot of wild beasts. Everyone looked in the direction of his finger. Although the night was dark, they could still see several huge beast eyes that were flashing with a scarlet light. Everyone felt a chill under their feet. They did not have time to think and ran in the opposite direction of the beast group. They were afraid that if they were half a step slower, they would be caught by the wild beasts. The wild beasts behind them let out all kinds of strange cries. It was simply creepy. What made everyone even more desperate was that they did not run far before they realized that there were also several wild beasts blocking them not far away. Immediately, a Zhuang family disciple jumped into the pavilion that he was pointing at. Immediately after, there was a scream. Only then did everyone realize to their horror that the pavilion had already turned into a lizard wild beast. Not only that, the surrounding pavilions had also turned into 5 lizard wild beasts in an instant. Immediately, someone broke down and shouted, "It's over. We're dead." Everyone's faces turned extremely pale. They roughly looked at the more than 30 wild beasts blocking them from the front and back. No matter what, they had no way to kill so many wild beasts. Could it be that they could only wait for death? Mu Zian said coldly, "Time is tight. The Lan family is in charge of delaying the 3 lizard-like beasts in the north. The 3 of us will focus on dealing with the 3 lizard-like beasts in the south, trying to open up a breakthrough." When the Lan family heard this, their faces turned pale. Were they planning to abandon them? Chapter 50-29. You are the White Maiden. Even though the Lan family knew that the odds were stacked against them, they did not dare to disobey. After all, only the Mu family could open an opening for them to escape. They could only brace themselves to deal with the 3 lizard beasts in the north. Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan looked at each other. Lan Luoshan shook her head vaguely and the two of them joined the battle. Fortunately, the Lan family members had seen the attacking methods of the lizard beasts before. After setting up the spiritual energy shield, They were not afraid of their venom for a short period of time. They just needed to avoid being entangled by their tongues. On the other side, Mu Zian and the others used their full strength to deal with the three lizard beasts in the south. Mu Zian, Qi Tianhui, and Zhuang Shichen were the targets that their families focused on nurturing. Naturally, they had many good things. They did not have time to hide anymore and took them out one by one. In addition, everyone was in a hurry to escape, and their potential was greater than usual. They actually killed 3 lizard beasts within a short period of time. Once the gap opened, everyone ran forward desperately, afraid that the other beasts would catch up to them. The Lan family members also followed closely behind. Fortunately, the lizard beasts were not fast, so they were able to escape and catch up with the Mu family members. Even though they knew that the other 3 families did not have good intentions towards them, if they left them, they would only die in Supreme City. At this moment, Lan Luomu faintly hoped that Yun Chujio was still alive. After all, when Yun Chujio was still around, their situation was not so passive. However, was she still alive? Of course, He Xinjiu was alive. However, at this moment this fellow was throwing a tantrum. On that day, Yun Chujio and the others were drunk from the smell of alcohol. A moment ago, the silver snake was the first to wake up. After he woke up, he crawled out of Yun Chujio's sleeve and called Yun Chujio a few times. However, Yun Chujio was too drunk to wake up. The silver snake had no choice but to bite the back of this guy's hand, which woke He Xinjiu up from the pain. Before He Xinjiu opened her eyes, she cursed, "Damn it, which bastard dares to bite me?" A certain being, Yun Chujio opened her eyes and saw the silver snake coiled around her wrist. She picked it up and threw it into the wine vat. "You stinky snake. I told you to bite me. I'll kill you. I'll kill you." The certain being was so angry that he almost fainted. He shouted loudly, "Ugly girl, stop. Are you crazy?" Hearing that, Yun Chujio stopped moving and looked at the small silver snake in her hand in confusion. Then she giggled foolishly. As he spoke, he started singing, "By Suzhen at the foot of Qingqing Mountain, cultivating in the cave for 1,000 years, Di Biming was so angry that his head was buzzing. What snake demon, what lady Bai? Was this ugly girl crazy or stupid?" As he was fuming with anger, he heard Yun Chujio shout, "Ah, I remember now. You are not a snake demon, you are my gigolo." Di Biming finally heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that. Fortunately, he had returned to normal. However, he was obviously happy too early because he heard Yun Chujio continue, "Gigolo, hee, I heard that there are 2 snakes. Let me take a look." The silver snake immediately stiffened and used all its strength to break free from Yun Chujio's hand. Fortunately, Yun Chujio was drunk and did not have much strength. Otherwise, the small silver snake would be in a tragic situation. Chapter 50-30 Snake Wine. The small silver snake was embarrassed and angry, but it knew that it could not reason with Yun Chujio at the moment. It was just that it was a snake now, so it could not use the storage ring. Otherwise it could use cold water to sober up the ugly thing. The small silver snake looked around. There was almost nothing else in the wine cellar except for the wine jar. How could it sober up the ugly girl? Just as the little silver snake was worrying, he saw He Xinjiu staggering towards him and reaching out to grab him. The little silver snake had no choice but to dodge desperately in the wine cellar. "Little boy, don't run. Come, I'm very gentle. I won't hurt you," He Xinjiu said slyly. The little silver snake naturally wouldn't believe her nonsense. He made up his mind that he would never let this guy drink wine again. He Xinjiu caught the silver snake for a while, but she did not catch it. Instead, she tripped over the wine jar. The guy blinked his eyes and started crying. "Gigolo, my gigolo has run away. Ooh, why do I always have to be separated from the gigolo? Why can't the gigolo stay by my side? Woo, I remember now. The gigolo has lost his memory. The gigolo doesn't love me anymore. I finally saved the gigolo, but he forgot about me. You white-eyed snake. You snake shimmy. You heartless snake. Woo, my heart hurts so much. My heart is about to break into pieces. I'm most likely going to die." The silver snake heard Yun Chujio's words and saw the tears rolling down Yun Chujio's face. It felt a throbbing pain in its heart and could not help but jump to her side. "Ugly girl, are you all right?" However, the next moment he was held in He Xinjiu's hand. "Ah, you stupid snake, you've been tricked, haven't you? Miss is going to check your body now. Don't be afraid." The silver snake was so angry that it almost died. This ugly girl was still full of evil when she was drunk. She was completely evil. It wanted to struggle, but Yun Chujio was obviously on guard. It struggled a few times but could not break free. There was only one thought in its mind. It was over. It was going to lose its moral integrity. He Xingjiu did not care what he thought. She said proudly, "Little guy, run. Let's see where you can run to this time." The guy was holding the head of the silver snake with one hand and the tail of the silver snake with the other. At the critical moment, the guy suddenly became a bit shy and gritted his teeth. "I need to drink some wine to boost my courage." Thus, this fellow squatted on the ground and lowered his head to drink the wine in the jar. Then this fellow was miserable. Previously, just the smell of alcohol alone could make her pass out, and the wine in this jar was extremely rich. This fellow had just taken a sip when he once again passed out with his face facing the sky. The miserable silver snake was accidentally thrown into the wine jar. The silver snake's heart was like a dog's. Would he, a dignified overlord, become the snake in the snake wine? The silver snake hurriedly held its breath. It crawled out of the wine jar with great difficulty, but it had more or less absorbed the smell of alcohol. It was so miserable that it passed out. Before it passed out, a certain lord once again made up his mind. He was determined not to let the ugly girl drink again, even if it was the wedding night. When he thought of the wedding night, he remembered Tang Yuan, and two blood lines appeared on his nose. Chapter 50-31 Rope Ladder. He Xingjiu was sleeping soundly in the wine cellar, while Mu Zian and the others were desperately trying to escape. Several wild beasts were chasing closely behind them, and the sky-shaking roars made people's hair stand on end in the middle of the night. The group did not bother to distinguish their direction and just ran forward, afraid that they would be caught by the wild beasts if they were half a step slower. The group originally thought that the wild beasts would disappear as usual at daybreak, but they were disappointed. Even though the sun was high up in the sky, the wild beasts had no intention of hiding. They continued to chase after them crazily. Zhuang Shichen panted as he said, "We can't go on like this. Even if we're tired, we'll die of exhaustion. We should run towards the west. After we enter the levitation layer, we might be able to catch our breath." The others did not have any objections and immediately followed him to run towards the west. Among these people, Lan Luofang's spiritual power was the lowest, so she gradually fell behind. She saw the approaching wild beast, and her heart was filled with panic. Her spiritual power was basically exhausted, and she could not run anymore. She took out pills to replenish her spiritual power and stuffed them into her mouth, but the amount of spiritual power she could replenish was really limited. There was no way to increase the distance between her and the wild beast. Was she going to die here? It would be great if little Jiu was here. She would definitely have a way to escape. When she thought of Yun Chuzhou, her heart skipped a beat. Yun Chuzhou had once stuffed a few bottles of pills into her mouth. The labels on the bottles were crooked. Some were for detoxification, some were for stopping bleeding, and some were for replenishing her spiritual power. Lan Luofang did not have time to think too much. She took out the bottle that was labeled for replenishing her spiritual power, poured out a pill and stuffed it into her mouth. The medicinal pill melted in her mouth, and in an instant, spiritual power was injected into her dantian. Lan Luofang was overjoyed, and immediately used all her strength to chase after the people in front of her. Only then did Lan Luofang realize that the medicinal pill that she had swallowed previously actually had golden patterns. She had never heard of medicinal pills with golden patterns. Where did little Jiu get it from? Everyone had originally thought that Lan Luofang would definitely die in the end. Who would have thought that Lan Luofang would actually be able to catch up to her alive? Moreover, it seemed that her physical strength and spiritual power were very abundant. Everyone thought that Jia Shi had given her some high-grade spiritual power replenishing pill, so they didn't have much doubt. Finally, everyone arrived at the bottom of the levitating layer. When they saw the towering, imposing buildings in front of them, they were all overjoyed. It was said that there was a square outside the first level of the levitation layer. It was relatively safe up there. As long as they could reach that square, they would have some time to catch their breath. However, even the first level of the levitation layer was more than 100 feet above the ground. It was also forbidden to fly here. If they wanted to climb up, they could only climb up a rope ladder that hung down from above. The worst thing was that the pack of wild beasts had already caught up. Qi Tianhui and Zhuang Shichen followed closely behind. The Mu family and the other two families also squeezed to the front, leaving the Lan family members at the outermost edge. The Lan family members were angry and resentful. However, they knew that even if they did not listen to Mu Zian and forcefully climbed up the rope ladder, they would still be killed by the other three families when they reached the top. Those wild beasts stared at them with their scarlet eyes as they got closer and closer. Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan looked at each other. Lan Luoshan fiercely pushed Lan Luoyen in front of her while Lan Luohan pushed Lan Luoji in front of him. Then the two of them jumped towards the rope ladder. Chapter 50-32 had no place to stand. Lan Luoyen and Lan Luoji were pushed several feet away. Fortunately, they had set up their spiritual energy shields in time. Otherwise, they would have been poisoned to death by the lizard beast at the front. The two of them rolled and climbed up. They turned around and ran. The other members of the Lan family had already reached the bottom of the rope ladder. However, Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan pulled the rope ladder up after they climbed up. Lan Luoshan held the rope ladder in her hand and said to Mu Zian, who was still in shock, "Sister Zian, this way the wild beasts will not be able to climb up the rope ladder." Mu Zian's expression changed a few times. Just as she was about to say something, Zhuang Shurchen said, "What Miss Luoshan said makes sense. If we don't put away the rope ladder, it will be bad if the smaller wild beasts climb up." Mu Zian didn't say anything else, but Qi Tianhui said, "TSK, the two of you are really ruthless. In order to survive, you don't even care about the lives of your companions." Lan Luohan's eyes were slightly cold. Lan Luoshan gently tugged at him and said gently, "We are also looking at the big picture. There's nothing we can do about it." Qi Tianhui curled his lips and didn't say anything. Anyway, the lives of the Lan family members had nothing to do with him. As for these two people, they would be their scapegoats sooner or later. The Lan family members naturally hated Lan Luohan and Lan Luoshan to death. However, the most important thing now was to escape. However, dozens of wild beasts had blocked all the directions. They had no way to escape. Lan Luomu gritted his teeth and took out a few packets of medicinal powder. "Everyone hold your breath and raise your spiritual energy shields." Everyone was now like a grasshopper on a rope. If one more person lived, they would have more strength. Therefore, Lan Luomu specially reminded everyone. Everyone held their breath and raised their spiritual energy shields. Lan Luomu threw the powder at the wild beast. The poison powder was bought by the second elder at a high price. He specially gave it to Lan Luomu so that he could use it to save his life. Lan Luomu felt that although the poison powder might not be able to kill the wild beasts, it could at least give them a chance to escape. However, he never dreamed that the poison powder would have no effect on the wild beast. Instead, it angered the wild beast. Lan Luomu was instantly dumbfounded. At this moment, Lan Luofang shouted, "Watch me." Following her voice, Lan Luofang threw out a few large sacks. These were also given to her by Yun Chujio, and they were filled with chili noodles. The wild beasts thought that Lan Luofang was still throwing poison, so they used their claws to slap the sacks with disdain. The chili noodles in the sacks instantly flew in all directions. The wild beasts choked and cried. The Lan family members didn't have time to think about it. They took advantage of the gap between the wild beasts and ran out. Lan Luma's heart was like a dog crying. The poison he bought at a high price was useless, but Lan Luofang's chili powder was very effective. It was like seeing a ghost. When the people on the levitating layer saw that the Lan family members had actually used the chili powder to escape, they were all dumbfounded. However, they felt that even if the Lan family members escaped temporarily, it would be useless. Those wild beasts would eat them sooner or later. Lan Luomu and the others ran as fast as they could because they knew that once those wild beasts recovered, they would definitely intensify their pursuit and kill them. However, where could they escape to? The rope ladder on the levitating layer had been pulled up. They had no way to go up at all. The surface streets were full of danger, and there was no place for them in the great city. Chapter 50-33. "We're going to find little Jiao." Lan Luofang suddenly said, "We're going to find little Jiao. Only little Jiao can save us." "What nonsense are you talking about? Yun Chujio is already dead. Where are we going to find her?" Lan Luoyen said angrily. However, because it was Lan Luofang who saved everyone this time, she liked Lan Luofang a little. Lan Luofang said with certainty, "Little Jiao is so smart that she won't die. Something must have gone wrong. Let's go to the house where she went missing and we will definitely find clues." Lan Luoqing snorted coldly, "Let's not talk about whether she is still alive or not. This place is 3 days away from the house where she went missing. I'm afraid we won't live until then." Lan Luofang bit her lip. "No matter what, I have to go back and look for little Jiao. If it weren't for little Jiao, we wouldn't be able to leave this place alive." After saying that, Lan Luofang directly ran in the direction she came from. Lan Luomu and Lan Luoji looked at each other and chased after Lan Luofang. Seeing this, the others could only follow her. Now they could only try their best. However, everyone's physical strength and spiritual power were limited after all. After running for a while they could not run anymore. Although the wild beasts slowed down slightly, their physical strength was much better than theirs. The distance between them was getting shorter and shorter. Lan Luofeng recalled that Yun Chujio had burned the fox wild beast to death. She felt that these wild beasts should be afraid of fire, so she said to everyone, "We passed through the house. Lan Luoyin, you are in charge of setting the fire. Perhaps you can stop them for a while." Lan Luofeng's words were now a life-saving straw. Lan Luoyin was not in the mood to disagree with her, so she immediately transformed into a fire butterfly. The fire butterfly already had some initial intelligence. It specially picked some combustible things to light up. In an instant the house they entered was on fire. Those wild beasts seemed to be afraid of the fire, so they hesitated. Some of them even tried their best to spray poison on the volcano, as if they wanted to put out the fire. Everyone was overjoyed. No matter what, they could at least slow down the speed of these wild beasts. However, they did not dare to set a large area on fire. After all, if the fire spread too far they would also be burned to death. Thus, the Lan family members set fire to the restaurant where Yun Chujio disappeared. "Lan Luofeng, I told you that Yun Chujio is definitely dead," Lan Luoyin muttered. Lan Luofeng shook her head. Little Jiu was full of evil. Even if she died, she wouldn't die so quietly. She definitely wasn't dead. However, how did this person disappear into thin air? At this moment, everyone heard someone say carelessly, "Lan Luoyin, who did you say was dead? Are you asking for a beating again?" Everyone followed the voice and looked over. Who was the one who spoke if not Yun Chujio? However, how did she appear out of thin air? Hei Shinjio naturally did not appear out of thin air. 3 days ago, after this fellow passed out from being drunk again, the little silver snake also passed out due to nosebleeds. As the wine was too strong, even though Hei Shinjio only took a sip, she slept for 3 days. As the little silver snake was thrown into the wine jar, it struggled to get out, but it was still very drunk. Fortunately, Peach Blossom was only drunk from the smell of alcohol. When the Lan family came in, Peach Blossom was awakened. Peach Blossom together call with drag, finally Hei Shinjio to wake up. Chapter 50-34 took action. One was worth 2, master. Use some water to wake yourself up. Someone is coming. Peach Blossom said with her spiritual sense. As she had slept for a long time this time, Hei Shinjio was clearer than before. She immediately poured a basin of cold water on herself and shivered a few times. She felt much more awake. When she saw the small silver snake lying beside the wine jar, the corner of her eyes twitched because she saw 2 dried blood stains under the nose of the small silver snake. Hei Shinjio had been too drunk before, so she had no impression of her crazy drinking behavior. When she saw the small silver snake like this, she cursed in her heart, "Pui? Could this pervert have taken advantage of her drunkenness to do something immoral?" However, she had no time to settle the score with Beiming now. She put the peach blossom into her spirit beast bag, the small silver snake into her sleeve bag, and then put all the wine in the wine cellar into her storage ring. However, this fellow discovered that most of the wine jars in the wine cellar were empty. This fellow almost died from anger. She thought that she had struck it rich, but it turned out to be an empty joy. Fortunately, some of the jars were full, or else she would have cried herself to death. This wine cellar was hidden under a room. Yun Chujio tilted her ear to listen for the sounds outside. When she heard that it was the Lan family, she heaved a sigh of relief in her heart, and only then did she reveal herself. When Lan Luofeng saw Yun Chujio, she could not help but be surprised and happy. She ran over and grabbed Yun Chujio's arm. "Little Jiu, it's great that you're all right." Lan Luoyin pouted and muttered, "Sure enough, a scourge lives for 1,000 years. Yun Chujio could not be bothered with her. She asked, "Are you guys back to look for me? Where are the others?" This fellow did not know that she had slept for a few days. She thought that she had only slept for a short while. When she heard Lan Luofeng's story, she realized that she had been drunk for a few days. Just when she was in a daze, Lan Luoyin sniffed. Why is there such a strong smell of alcohol?" Lan Luoyin sniffed and her gaze fell on Yun Chujio. "Good. Yun Chujio, you've been hiding and drinking these few days. You're our captain. Are you worthy of our ancestors' trust?" Yun Chujio touched her nose guiltily. Even though she had changed into a new set of clothes, the wine in the wine cellar was too strong, so it was still stained with the smell of alcohol. To be honest, she did not expect to be drunk for so many days just by opening the wine jar. This time she was careless. However, this guy wanted to lose without losing, so he snorted and said, "Now you admit that I'm the captain? That's not what you said before." Yun Chujio decided to redeem herself as the captain. She waved her claws and said, "You guys run first. I'll hold them off." Lan Luofang said worriedly, "Little Jiu, there are more than 30 wild beasts. Can you handle them?" Don't worry. The captain will take care of them. You guys run first. If I can't handle them, I will chase after you." Yun Chujio said heroically. Lan Luoyen curled her lips. No matter what, this Yun Chujio was at least much stronger than that damn Lan Luoshan. That bitch. She thought she was a good person, but in the end, she actually stabbed them in the back. If there was a chance, she would definitely kill that bitch. Immediately, the Lan family members ran away in a hurry, leaving only Hei Shinjio alone. Hei Shinjio jumped onto the wall, nibbling on a meat bun while looking at the approaching wild beasts in the distance with a smile. Chapter 50-35. Goei Batsao. Seeing the beasts getting closer and closer, Yun Chujio waved her claws and said, "Stop. All of you stop right now. Otherwise I won't be polite." The beasts were very angry because they hadn't been able to catch up to Lan Luofang and the others. Now that they saw Yun Chujio threatening them shamelessly, they were instantly enraged. The wild beasts let out all kinds of horrifying cries and pounced on Hei Shinjio. Hei Shinjio shouted, "Stop. All of you stop. I have something important to tell you." One of the wild beasts said sinisterly, "Jie, something important? Eating you is the most important thing. Prepare to die." "Don't, I really have something important to tell you. There are so many of you, are you only afraid of me?" Yun Chujio said with a smile. The wild beast snorted. "Okay, tell me. What is it?" Yun Chujio curled her lips. "Listen carefully. The important thing is that you are too ugly. Too ugly. But it's true. You don't have a mirror. Otherwise, how would you have the courage to live?" The wild beasts were almost angered to death. They roared and pounced on Yun Chujio. Hei Shinjio directly jumped onto the top of the wall of another house. As she ran, she shouted, "Idiot! Ugly monster! Chase me! Come chase me!" Those wild beasts naturally would not let her go. They chased after her relentlessly. Yun Chujio deliberately led this group of demonic beasts away from the direction where the Lan family members were escaping. This fellow ran as he pondered. Mu Zian and the others had already reached the levitating layer. She had to quickly clean up these wild beasts so that the good things would not be snatched away by Mu Zian and the others. As expected, drinking makes things worse. I'll never drink again. Not only did I delay the proper business, I even let the gigolo take advantage of me. What a huge loss. If a certain someone knew what this guy was thinking, he would probably be fuming with anger. Take advantage of me? His integrity was almost ruined in her hands, okay? Yun Chujio felt that she was far enough from Lan Luofang and the rest, so she stopped and said to the group of wild beasts, "You really don't know what's good for you. You actually dare to chase me? Today I'll let you see my Goei Batsao." Goei Batsao proudly shook its leaves, thinking to itself, "Let's see. Gold will shine sooner or later." Now that the stupid girl knows how powerful it is, she hurriedly released it. Actually, Goei Batsao was thinking too much. Although Goei Batsao had displayed its brute strength last time, Hei Shinjio did not have too much hope for it. After all, these wild beasts were not those motionless stones, so Goei Batsao might not be able to gain any advantage. The reason why it was let out was to divert the attention of the wild beasts, so that she could use small flames to sneak attack. However, Goei Batsao did not know. This fellow was feeling pretty good now. It was waving its leaves so hard that they were about to fly away. Yun Chujio saw how cocky it was and could not help but twitch the corner of her mouth. She scolded, "Don't be so cocky. Go on. Whip them all away." After saying that, Yun Chujio hid behind Goei Batsao and prepared to launch a sneak attack. Goei Batsao felt that it was not appropriate for it to send these wild beasts flying in a rough manner. Therefore, it decided to make a beautiful pose, such as a white crane flapping its wings. However, this fellow did not notice that Hei Shinjio was hiding behind it. She was in a good position and Hei Shinjio was also sent flying by it. Moreover, the direction of the flying was coincidentally in the middle of the wild beasts. Chapter 50-36. It was in trouble. There was only one thought in Hei Xinjia's mind. She wanted to tear that damned Goei Batsao into pieces. Goei Batsao was also dumbfounded. It was over. It was in trouble. It was in big trouble. It was 80% certain that it would not be able to see the sun tomorrow. Goei Batsao wanted to save Hei Shinjio, but the distance was too far. It had no way of using its leaves to catch Yun Chujio. The group of wild beasts were also dumbfounded. Was this brat's spiritual beast having a stroke? Why would it help them take care of that brat? No matter what, this brat was dead meat. Several wild beasts opened their mouths wide and stretched out their claws, ready to swallow Hei Shinjio, who had fallen down. However, Yun Chujio did not fall down. Instead, a few sacks of chili noodles fell down. Although the wild beasts had suffered a loss once, they were still caught in the crossfire. Each and every one of them was choked with tears and tears. It turned out that at the critical moment, Yun Chujio had an idea. She threw out a sticky thread and wrapped it around a protruding piece of wood in the pavilion next to her. Only then did she not fall into the herd of wild beasts. Gowei Batsao saw that Yun Chujio was safe and sound, and it heaved a sigh of relief in its heart. With the intention of atoning for its sins, it did not care about its posture anymore. It began to use its leaves to whip the wild beasts. As the wild beasts were snot-covered with tears due to the chili, they were not aware of it. A few wild beasts were hit by the leaves of Gowei Batsao, and their huge bodies were instantly sent flying. However, after the wild beasts regained their senses, Gowei Batsao was not as relaxed. The Gowei Batsao quickly dimmed and then dissipated. The strange grass in its dantian was secretly resentful. If it had not condensed 2 drops of juice for that fiend, how could it be afraid of these dregs? Most importantly, it had caused trouble this time. That black-hearted little girl would definitely not let it off. Why was its life so miserable? Seeing that the Gowei Batsao had dissipated, Yun Chujio condensed her spiritual power again and released it. Although this fellow's brain was not very good, it had brute force and could be of help. They raised all the pavilions next to them to the ground so that Yun Chujio had no place to hide. Yun Chujio immediately released all the dumb cuties. Training soldiers for 1,000 days and using soldiers for a while, these foodies should also make a contribution. The silly cuties took the lead one by one, especially the little salamander. It wanted to show off in front of the peach blossoms and crush Buttface, so it was working hard. Although it was forbidden to fly here, and the little salamander could only fly about 30 feet high, those beasts seemed to be more afraid of fire-type attacks. The little salamander was like a fish in water. Buttface secretly hid in the distance and watched, cursing in his heart. If it didn't use its cultivation to transform into a physical form, how would this little bug be able to show off here? Just wait and see. Sooner or later, Buttface would blind his and the female's snobbish eyes. Hei Shinjio did not stay idle either. She constantly used heavenly lightning, small flames and purple needles to launch sneak attacks. The wild beasts seemed to be quite afraid of Yun Chujio's methods. In addition to the silly cuties and the perverted Guai Chao, they gradually had the intention to retreat. Therefore, after a few wild beasts were killed, the rest of the wild beasts fled in panic. Yun Chujio did not chase after them. It was not like she had to kill them. The most important thing now was to hurry to the levitation layer. Yun Chujio put away the silly beast. She thought for a while and released the giant rabbit. Then she rode the rabbit to find Lan Luofang and the others. Chapter 50-37. Even if the wall was not convinced, she would still be convinced. Hei Shinjio sat on the giant rabbit and began to curse at the Guai Chao in her dantian. Go Weiba, I didn't realize that you were so cunning. You want to kill me, you ungrateful grass. I thought you had changed, but you are still the same. Just you wait, I won't forgive you. Guai Chao formed its leaves into the shape of a heart and kept begging for mercy. If it was not for the fact that its roots could not move, it would have knelt down and begged for mercy. In all conscience, it just wanted to pose like a badass. Who would have thought that it would send this wretched girl flying? If it had known this would happen, it would not have been so smug. Hei Shinjio cursed fiercely again before temporarily letting go of Guai Chao. Of course, she also knew that Guai Chao must have done it unintentionally. After all, no matter how stupid it was, it would not do such a stupid thing. However, Go Weiba tail was getting more and more floaty. She had to teach it a lesson. Hei Shinjio did not know that there was a mini Gowei Batsao lying on her hair at this moment. It was waving its small leaves arrogantly. It was simply happy. Last time, Guai Chao had saved up a small amount of money and wanted to take a stroll outside. However, in order to break Di Baiming's white seal, it had used up all its spiritual power. Now that this guy had saved up a lot of money, he naturally would not let go of this good opportunity. Therefore, after Yun Chujio withdrew her spiritual power, this guy pretended to disappear, but in fact he became very small and hid in Hei Xinjia's hair. Hei Shinjio knew nothing about this. She quickly found Lan Luofang and the others on the giant rabbit. Although Lan Luofang and the others were far away, they could still vaguely hear the loud noise. They could not help but worry for Yun Chujio. Even Lan Luoyen was a little worried. It was not that she had changed her opinion of Yun Chujio, but she now saw Hei Shinjio as a life-saving straw, so she naturally did not want anything to happen to her. When everyone saw Hei Shinjio coming over on a rabbit, they could not help but heave a sigh of relief. However, when they saw this guy's strange mount, their faces froze. What the hell was this thing? A rabbit? There did not seem to be such a large demonic rabbit species in the Chongshao continent, right? Little Jiu, where are the wild beasts? Lan Luofeng asked. They were all beaten away by this captain. Let's go, they won't dare to come back for a while. Yun Chujio said smugly. The others didn't say anything and immediately followed Yun Chujio to the floating lair. Yun Chujio saw that all of them were exhausted and asked, "Don't you have any spirit beasts to carry you?" Lan Luofeng and the others all shook their heads. The cultivators of the heavy cloud continent paid attention to their own cultivation and rarely relied on external things, so most people didn't have any spirit pets. Yun Chujio curled her lips. You guys are really poor. How about this, I can rent out spiritual beasts to you for 10,000 high-grade spirit stones a day. Are you guys going to rent them out? Everyone, they were all convinced by how greedy they were. If even the wall was not convinced, they would be convinced by her. However, they were all so tired that they were about to smoke. Not to mention 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, even 100,000 was something they were willing to give up. Thus they all agreed. Yun Chujio immediately got Mao Chio to pick 7 relatively fast and large snowstorm-back wolves from the Great Void Mystic Realm. After the contract was signed, she handed them over to Lan Luofeng and the others. Although the grade of the snowstorm-back wolves was not high, it was not a problem to use them as a means of transportation. Lan Luofeng and the others did not have the time to nitpick that the grade of the spirit beasts was too low. One by one they climbed onto the back of the wolves and began to meditate. Chapter 50-38 Are you in love with me? With their spiritual pets, Lan Luofeng and the others could rest and not delay their journey. They could not help but feel a little emotional. It seemed that the old ancestor had a reason to let Yun Chujio, the troublemaker, be the team leader. Yun Chujio had passed out from being drunk for a few days, so she was not sleepy at all. She hummed a little song and led the way. Seeing that Lan Luofeng and the others were already asleep, she took out the small silver snake from her sleeve pocket. Seeing that the small silver snake had not woken up yet, she poked his head with her hand and muttered, "You pervert. I'll teach you a lesson when you wake up." At this moment, the small silver snake's vertical pupils opened. Its cold and fierce gaze almost scared Hei Shinjio so much that she fell off the rabbit. The snake pretended to be calm and said, "Why are you staring at me? Tell me, did you take advantage of me after I passed out?" A certain lord was amused when he heard that. "Ugly girl, don't you know what you have done? If you don't have a good taste in alcohol, don't drink like others. You are not allowed to touch a single drop of alcohol in the future." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. What did she do? She didn't do anything. Humph. Stop calling me a thief. Let me ask you, why is your nose bleeding again? Did you take advantage of me when I was drunk? A certain someone was so angry that he was about to explode. Take advantage of her? He was the one who was almost raped, okay. A certain someone wanted to tell her the good deed that Hei Shinju did when she was drunk, but it was a little hard to say. Finally, he squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. What about the matter of you throwing me into the wine jar? Hei Shinju was stunned at first, then she burst into laughter and almost fell off the giant rabbit's back. This guy's laughter woke Lan Luofeng and the others up. Lan Luofeng asked in confusion, "Little Jiu, why are you laughing? What happened?" Yun Chujio finally stopped laughing and said, it's nothing. I just remembered something interesting. You guys go back to sleep and rest up. We still have a tough battle to fight." Lan Luoyin mumbled crazy and went back to sleep. The others also shook their heads helplessly and fell asleep one after another. You mean that I almost turned you into a snake in the snake wine? Haha, this joke is enough for me to laugh at for the rest of my life. A certain being, Hei Shinjo chuckled a few times in a low voice before she was stunned. That's not right. Then why is your nose bleeding? A certain being's body stiffened slightly before he replied coldly, I knocked it in the wine jar. Hei Shinjo did not know that a certain being had actually learned how to open his eyes and lie. It was rare for this fellow to feel a little pain in his conscience. He used his hand to gently stroke the small silver snake's head. I'm sorry. I promise I won't drink anymore. Actually, it's not my fault this time. Who knew that just the smell of alcohol could make people drunk? Seeing that he had been fooled, a certain venerable heaved a sigh of relief and quickly changed the topic. It's good that you know. What do you plan to do next? No matter what, we have to enter the levitation layer first. Otherwise, we won't be able to find the enchantment and we'll be trapped here, said Yun Chujio. The levitation layer should be more dangerous. You have to be more careful, Beiming instructed. Are you concerned about me? Are you attracted by my beauty and wisdom? So you fell in love with me? Hei Xingjiu said slyly. Chapter 5039, Do you have a way to get up there? The small silver snake's body suddenly turned pink and snorted coldly. Don't flatter yourself. I was just afraid that you would implicate me if something happened to you. Oh, so that's how it is. It seems that I was thinking too much. That's right. I'm just a poor little girl who no one loves. I'm used to it. Hei Xingjiu said in a desolate manner. A certain someone noticed Yun Chujio's depressed mood and his heart tightened. He quickly added, You don't have to say that. Actually, you're not that bad. You're still passable. Yun Chujio, you're the one who's passable. Your whole family is passable. Although she was complaining in her heart, she looked like she was about to cry and did not say anything. A certain amnesia snake naturally did not know what this fellow was up to and thought that she had really been hit by his words. He could not help but feel annoyed and anxious. Venerable one, I was just teasing you. Actually, you are very good looking, very smart, very good, a certain one stammered. Yun Chujio shook her head and said with a sobbing voice, You are lying to me. You said that I was overthinking things. Obviously, you think that I am not worthy of you. I didn't mean that. A certain someone was about to continue to explain, but he saw a flash of cunningness in Yun Chujio's eyes. He immediately understood that he had been fooled again. He was so angry that he didn't say anything. Seeing that he had been exposed, Blackheart Jiu didn't feel embarrassed at all. He said with a smile, Then what do you mean? Do you think I'm very cute? Do you not want to marry me? Do you think that all the women in the world are not as good looking as me? A certain someone did not even look at her and went back into his sleeve pocket. He was obviously angry. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. You are at Sundara. I can't control you anymore. If you want to be angry, then be angry. Anyway, you will be angry sooner or later. A certain someone thought that Yun Chujio would apologize and coax him with soft words. He did not expect Hei Xingjiu to ignore him as if nothing had happened. A certain someone was so angry. However, he could not bring himself to go out again, so he could only cultivate in his sleeve pocket. He thought to himself that he would deal with this sinister and cunning ugly girl after he recovered his strength. Yun Chujio saw that the levitating layer that reached into the clouds was actually suspended in the air. She could not help but click her tongue in wonder. How did this happen? Wasn't this the legendary pavilion in the air? Moreover, these floating layers were not just 18-story pavilions. The area above was very large and each floor was comparable to an imperial city. Yun Chujio shouted to the top, Hey, is there anyone breathing up there? No one spoke up, but that was also true. Mu Zian and the others should have already entered the floating layer. Perhaps they had already reached the second floor. Everyone looked at the levitation layer and sighed. The rope ladder had already been put away, and it was suspended in the air below. They had no way to climb up and it was forbidden to fly here. There was no way for them to go up. Lan Luoyan thought of Lan Luoshan putting away the rope ladder and could not help but curse. Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan, those two bastards really deserve to die. Not only did they secretly attack us, they even put away the rope ladder. They really want us to die. Lan Luoji and the others were also cursing, wishing they could tear Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan into pieces. Lan Luofang approached Yun Chujio and asked, Little Jiu, do you have a way to go up? Chapter 5040, The first level of the levitation layer. Yun Chujio heard Lan Luofang's question and giggled. How difficult is that? Lan Luoyan pouted. Anyone can talk big. What can you do? Can you grow wings and fly up? Yun Chujio glanced at her. Although I can't grow wings and fly up, I have ropes. Yun Chujio took out a bundle of rope as she spoke. This storage ring had everything in it. Naturally, she would prepare the necessary things like ropes. The mocking expression on Lan Luoyan's face became even more intense. What's the use of having a rope? Let's not talk about whether you can throw the rope so high. Even if you can throw it up, there's nothing on it that can fix the rope. Isn't it still useless? Although Lan Luofang was dissatisfied with Lan Luoyan's attitude, she felt that what she said made sense. There was a rope in their storage rings, but the levitation layer was at least 30 meters above the ground. There was no way to fix the rope. Could it work? Yun Chujio did not say anything. She just smiled and took out the rolling pin. She tied the rope to one end of the rolling pin and stuck the rolling pin into the ground. As the Lan family members inhaled, the rolling pin grew taller and taller. It was even taller than the first layer of the levitation layer. Lan Luofeng asked weakly, "Little Jiu, this pin is so thin. Can it bear our weight?" Yun Chujio shook her head. The longer the pin was, the weaker its power. It could not bear the weight of an adult. Lan Luofeng saw that Yun Chujio shook her head and denied it. She asked, "Then what do you plan to do?" "They'll let one of my helpers go up first and then pull us up," Yun Chujio said. Everyone looked at each other. Helper? What helper? Just as everyone was puzzled, they saw that Yun Chujio released a Xiaohei rat. It seemed to be of an unusually low rank. She couldn't be thinking of letting this little thing pull them up, right? What kind of joke was this? They could kill this weak little thing with one finger. Yun Chujio ignored their gazes and gave a few instructions to the Xiaohei rat. Then the Xiaohei rat climbed up along the rolling pin. Xiaohei rat climbed to the top of the rolling pin. Seeing that there was nothing unusual inside, it reported the news to Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio then leaned the rolling pin against the levitating layer. Xiaohei rat untied the rope and jumped onto the levitating layer. Yun Chujio immediately grabbed one end of the rope and motioned Xiaohei to pull her up. Lan Luoyan could not hold it in anymore. "Yun Chujio, are you crazy? How can that little thing be pulled up?" Everyone's faces were filled with shock. Oh my god, that little thing actually had such great strength? This was too unbelievable. After Yun Chujio was pulled up, the Xiaohei rat also pulled the others up to the floating layer. While everyone was shocked, they started to look at their surroundings. They were in a small square. The green stone slabs on the ground were exactly the same as the ones on the streets, but the patterns were more complicated and exquisite. Yun Chujio put away Xiaohei and the dough stick and said, "Let's go in and take a look." Everyone knew what to do and did not ask about Xiaohei and the dough stick. They were more afraid of Yun Chujio. After leaving the square, everyone realized that the floating floor was no different from the streets. The only difference was that the pavilions on the side of the road were more intact and more exquisite. Chapter 50. 41-inch iron rooster becomes a spirit. Yun Chujio thought to herself that the celestials living in this floating floor were probably of a higher level than the celestials living in the lower levels. Moreover, the higher the level, the higher the level. This was also normal. There were different levels in every place. Even the celestials were not exempt from it. As the buildings here were more well preserved, the plaques on the buildings were basically still there. However, they were all written in ancient characters. Shinjio only knew a little of the ancient characters, but Buttface did. So, Buttface eagerly explained to Yun Chujio. "Little fairy, the plaque on the left says Cloud Weaving Manor and the plaque on the right says Rouge House. Most of them are satin houses and one sells rouge powder." Out of curiosity, Yun Chujio entered the Cloud Weaving Manor on the left. It was empty, and she didn't know if it had been destroyed or if it had been taken away by someone from the previous trial. The Rouge building on the right was in the same situation. There was only an empty room left. Yun Chujio entered a few more pavilions and it was the same situation. "It seems that the barrier to teleport out isn't on the first level," said Lan Luomu. Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. "How do you know?" Lan Luomu took out something that looked like an array disc and said, "My grandfather gave this to me. It can sense teleportation barriers. My grandfather got this when he participated in the Divine Relic trial. It can sense a wide range but there's no reaction at all. This means that the teleportation barrier at the exit isn't on this level." Lan Luomu naturally didn't plan to reveal that he had such a treasure, but now that they were all in the same boat, there was nothing to hide. After all, survival was more important. Yun Chujio was very satisfied with Lan Luomu's ability to adapt to the situation. She chuckled and said, "Since that's the case, then we won't waste time on the first level. Let's go find the entrance to the second level." Everyone easily found the second entrance in the center of the city. It was a flight of stairs that looked no different from ordinary stone steps. However, they found a lot of blood and 4 corpses under the stairs. Among the 4 corpses, 2 of them were wearing the Qi family's clothing. The other 2 were wearing the Zhuang family's clothing, and the other one was wearing the Mu family's clothing. When everyone saw the corpses and the mottled blood stains on the steps, their expressions immediately changed. At this moment, the sky had already darkened. Yun Chujio thought for a moment and decided to let everyone spend the night on the first level of the levitation layer. They would discuss countermeasures after daybreak. Everyone did not have any objections. They found a relatively spacious empty space nearby to rest, but all of them had solemn expressions on their faces. There were so many people from the Mu family, but they had actually lost 4 people on this step. Could they safely pass through this step? Yun Chujio did not treat her stomach unfairly at all times. She slowly began to roast the meat. Everyone from the Lan family was speechless. What kind of situation was this? They actually had the mood to roast meat? However, when the aroma of the roasted meat spread, everyone could not help but swallow their saliva. They had been eating fasting pills for the past few days. Now that they smelled the aroma of the barbecued meat, they naturally had a craving for it. Yun Chujio smiled and said, "Do you want to eat it?" A skewer of barbecued meat costs 100 high-grade spirit stones. You won't be at a loss if you buy it for 100 spirit stones. You won't be fooled. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Everyone from the Lan family was so angry that their noses almost went crooked. This fellow was simply an iron rooster that had turned into a spirit. Even at this time he still wanted to make money. Chapter 50-42 Do you all hate me? Everyone glared at Yun Chujio. Previously they had no choice but to pay to rent a spiritual beast. Now there was no need to give her money for the sake of food. Hence, they turned their heads away and did not say anything. Only Lan Luofeng came over and said, "Little Gio, with our relationship, there's no need to talk about money, right? If we talk about money, it would hurt our relationship." Yun Chujio pouted and stuffed a piece of roasted meat to her. This girl's skin was getting thicker and thicker. She didn't know who she learned it from. Lan Luoyen saw the situation and said fiercely, "Eat, eat, eat. All you know is to eat. If we can't find the strange part of the stairs, we'll be trapped here to death." Yun Chujio said lazily, "What are you worried about? Mu Zian and those idiots can find a way to get up, so naturally we can too. They sacrificed 4 lives to find a way," Lan Luoyen said angrily. Yun Chujio curled her lips. "We can do that too. You will be the first one to go up tomorrow." "You, how dare you?" Lan Luoyen stood up abruptly. She was both angry and afraid. If Yun Chujio really insisted on doing this, no one would speak up for her. After all, her life was at stake now. Who could control who? "There is nothing in this world that I don't dare to do. If you don't want to be the first one to go up, come over and help me roast the meat," Yun Chujio said with a chuckle. Lan Luoyen bit her lips, but she still chickened out. Gritting her teeth, she helped He Xinjiu roast the meat. She cursed in her heart, "Eat, eat, eat, it's better to eat to death. Come everyone, let's eat together. I was just playing with you. I'm such a generous person, why would I want your money?" He Xinjiu said with a smile. The crowd pursed their lips. "You're generous? Do you believe it?" However, the crowd still gathered around. Whether it was the bright fire or the hot roasted meat, they could relax for a moment. They often participated in some trials, but this was the first time they encountered such a dangerous situation. They could hardly relax for a moment. When they were almost done eating, Yun Chujio asked lazily, "Do you hate me a lot?" "What?" Everyone's faces stiffened. They had never expected He Xinjiu to ask such a question. On second thought, it seemed that Yun Chujio did not bother them at all. Why did they want to kill her? Lan Luoyen said hatefully, "We are the ones with the surname Lan. You are a foreigner from a lower continent. Why should our ancestors look at you differently? Everyone, you deserve to be hated. You deserve it." Yun Chujio continued, "I know that the Lan family has never rejected internal strife, so all of you want to trample others under your feet. I'm also an outsider and I've even caught the eye of the old ancestor, so all of you can't wait to leave. This isn't a big deal, I understand." Everyone was dumbfounded. What did this troublemaker mean? It's just that people have to know their limits. You're not my match, so you can't beat me. Moreover, I don't plan to do anything to you. You really don't have to be my enemy. If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't have shown up. I wouldn't have saved you. After all, we all have the blood of the Lan family. There's no one closer to us in this world. Do you think it's fun to fight among ourselves? Chapter 50-43 Do I owe you a grudge? Hearing Yun Chujio's words, the members of the Lan family felt a little complicated. Their thoughts were deeply rooted, so they naturally would not change just because of Yun Chujio's words. It was just that in this environment, hearing these words, they inexplicably felt that they had more reliance and trust in the people around them. That's right, compared to the people of the Mu family, these people here at least had the same blood flowing in their bodies. They were family. Lan Luoyen bit her lips. Even if what you said makes sense, aren't Lan Luoshan and Lan Luohan also members of the Lan family? They still stabbed us in the back. Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows. There are all kinds of birds in this forest. There will inevitably be a few scumbags. Don't worry, I will give you the chance to kill them personally. For a moment, no one said anything. Only the crackling sound of firewood could be heard. After a while, Lan Luoyin suddenly started to cry. At first, it was a suppressed cry, but in the end, it turned into a wail. Lan Luofeng also started to sob. Although the others did not cry, they were all very depressed. The reason was very simple. They were afraid of death. There were 18 layers of levitation here. It was very likely that the teleportation enchantment would be set up on the 18th layer. Could they find the teleportation enchantment within the stipulated time limit? Lan Luoyin cried for a while and shouted fiercely, Yun Chujio, tell me, do you think we can leave this place alive? Yun Chujio revealed an extremely brilliant smile. Of course. I still have a lot of things to do. Naturally, I won't stay in this lousy place. Everyone was stunned by Yun Chujio's smile. For the first time they realized that this troublemaker was very good-looking. Lan Luoyin snorted coldly. If you can really bring me out safely, I won't go against you in the future. Yun Chujio curled her lips. You speak as if you can do anything to me. I remember that you're the one who gets beaten up every time, right? Lan Luoyin was so angry that she almost vomited blood. However, after being rebuked by He Xinjiu, she did not feel so sad anymore. Instead, she felt more at ease for some reason. Could it be that she needed to be rebuked? Also, if there's anything you need, just let me know. Lan Luoqing and the others also spoke up. Their meaning was basically the same as Lan Lumis. Yun Chujio nodded. Don't worry, we will all leave this place alive. After all, the Lan family has never been cowards who leave our fate to fate. When everyone saw Yun Chujio's determined and confident gaze, they felt a strange emotion rise in their hearts. It was an emotion that could not be described with words. Worship? Trust? Envy? In short, at this moment they truly recognized Yun Chujio's identity as the team leader. It was not because of the old ancestors' orders, nor was it because of Elder Tua's poison. It was simply because she was Yun Chujio. The little silver snake in his sleeve pocket snorted in his heart. This ugly girl really knew how to bewitch people's hearts. Since she was so eloquent, why didn't she apologize to him? Didn't she know that he was angry? He didn't care about her apology. He just wanted to give her a chance to repent. Yes, that was it. He Xinjiu didn't know what a certain prideful person was thinking. She was very satisfied when she saw the members of the Lan family turn from a pile of loose sand into obedient babies. She arranged for Lan Luoji and Lan Luomu to be on night duty and then lay down on the blanket and fell asleep. After noticing that she had fallen asleep, Gowei Batsao, which was hidden in its hair, hopped onto the ground. Haha, it's time for Gowei Ba tale. Chapter 50-44. The delightful Gowei Batsao Gowei Bakao's body was very small, and its spiritual energy fluctuation was very small. No one had noticed its existence. If Di Biming had not been so severely injured, perhaps he would have noticed it. However, he was very weak at the moment, so he did not notice Gowei Bakao's movement. Gowei Batsao jumped on the ground, feeling very good about itself. It liked the feeling of being alone in heaven and on earth. It was simply happy. That wretched girl thought that it was willing to stay shamelessly in her dantian. If it was not for the fact that it was absorbing the power of lightning, did she think that she would care about her? Pui. Shameless. Guai Chao cursed Yun Chujio dozens of times in his heart. He felt that the depression of the past few days had suddenly disappeared. Guai Chao was so bold as to jump around on Lan Luofeng and the others' faces, but the people in their dreams did not notice it at all. Guai Chao placed a leaf on his waist and was extremely proud. A bunch of idiots. However, after jumping around for a while, there was nothing new about it. It remembered the steps that led to the second level of the levitation layer that it saw during the day, and decided to take a look. It quickly waved its leaves and the entire plant flew up. Soon, it arrived at the bottom of the levitation layer steps. Under the moonlight, both the corpse next to the stairs and the blood stains on the stairs were particularly horrifying. However, Gowei Batsao never knew what fear was. It jumped to the top of the first step, but nothing happened. It jumped to the top of the second step, but there was still nothing unusual. When it jumped to the third step, countless spiritual arrows shot out from the bottom of the step. Gowei Batsao didn't care about this at all. Its size was very small, and as long as it was careful, those arrows wouldn't be able to hit it. Gowei Batsao continued to jump forward. There was nothing unusual on the fourth and fifth steps, but on the sixth step, vines made of spiritual power grew out, and Gowei Batsao easily dodged them. Next, Go-Wei Batsao found a pattern. It would be attacked every 2 steps, which were all attacks made of spiritual power. If it was a cultivator, they might be able to easily dodge or defend at the beginning. However, because there were too many steps, it was inevitable that they would be attacked later. Fortunately, Go-Wei Batsao was very light and agile. It jumped with all its strength and jumped to the second levitation layer. Go-Wei Batsao thought to himself, this move is quite vicious. At this point, everyone would feel that victory was within reach, so they would lower their guard and fall to their deaths easily. Thinking of this fellow proudly waved its leaves. So what if it was sinister? Once Go-Wei Batsao appeared, who would contend with it? This fellow felt that it had almost finished investigating. When the sun rose, it would be able to take credit from the smelly girl. Although the language wasn't fluent, that stinky girl was still considered smart. It gestured with its hands and perhaps she would be able to understand. Thinking of this, Go-Wei Batsao prepared to return the way it came. At this moment, Go-Wei Batsao caught a glimpse of something that seemed to be in the fault of the stairs that had disappeared earlier. Oh my, could it be the formation plate? If it destroyed the formation plate, wouldn't the formation on the stairs be gone? In that case, the stinky girl and the others could come up unimpeded. At that time, even if the stinky girl found out that it had a small treasury, it could still take credit for this matter. Chapter 5045 was probably in trouble again. Go-Wei Batsao felt that it was too smart. Therefore, before the steps recovered, it directly jumped into the fault of the steps. If it was an ordinary person, they would not be able to find the formation plate inside the fault, because this formation plate was different from the formation plate that was popular outside. It was very small. If it was not for the moonlight reflecting a ray of light, and because of Go-Wei Bacao's small size and low visibility, they would not have been able to find it. Go-Wei Batsao looked at the disc array and proudly shook its leaves. It only needed to dig out the bead in the center of the disc array, and the array would naturally stop. Therefore, Go-Wei Batsao enlarged its body and used its leaves to dig out the bead. However, the bead was fixed quite firmly, and Go-Wei Bacao's leaves were not very flexible, so it took a long time to dig it out. While Go-Wei Batsao was busy, the missing steps reappeared, and Go-Wei Batsao was unfortunately sealed inside the steps. Go-Wei Batsao was so angry. It could only give up on digging the bead, wanting to shrink its body and jump out. Unfortunately, it discovered that after the steps returned to their original position, the place was sealed by a barrier, and it could not get out. Go-Wei Batsao could not help but feel sorrowful. Was there any grass in this world that was more miserable than it? What did it do wrong to suffer such abuse? In its anger, Go-Wei Bacao's little temper flared up. Fuck, it should just directly destroy this broken formation disc. As long as the formation disc was destroyed, this barrier would naturally cease to exist. Could then get out. Hence, Go-Wei Batsao began to beat the formation disc frantically with its leaves in an attempt to destroy the formation disc. Coincidentally, its leaves struck the weak spot of the formation disc and cracks began to appear on the formation disc. Eventually, it completely shattered and the enchantment disappeared. Go-Wei Batsao was very pleased with itself. Little fellow, you still want to go against Go-Wei Batsao? Damn you. This fellow was just about to shrink its body and jump out of the gap when it realized that the place it was at began to shake violently. Go-Wei Batsao was dumbfounded. What was going on? What happened? Before it could recover its senses, it heard the sound of heavy objects landing on the ground. It immediately had an ominous premonition in its heart. The steps that led from the first level to the second level were no longer there. Instead, there was a pile of ruins on the ground. Go-Wei Batsao could feel that God was malicious towards it. It didn't do anything. Why did it become like this? Go-Wei Batsao suddenly trembled. If the little brat knew that it was done by it, it would probably turn into dried grass? At this moment, the sound of footsteps came from afar. Go-Wei Batsao knew that the loud sound must have woken up Yin Chujio and the others. It trembled even more violently and hurriedly hid in the bushes nearby. Very soon Yin Chujio and the others arrived. Everyone stared at the ruins in front of them with their mouths agape. What happened? Why is this staircase suddenly damaged? It was fine during the day, how did it suddenly become like this? Lan Luofeng said in fear. Could it be that Mu Zian and the others damaged it? How can we go up without the steps? Lan Luoji said in panic. Lan Luomu frowned, it shouldn't be them. After all, they don't know that we're not dead yet. Besides, they don't need to spend so much effort to destroy the steps. Go Weiba in the grass was scared and proud. No matter how these people guessed, they wouldn't guess that it was Go Weiba who did it. Chapter 5046. Hercules. Yun Chujio did not pay attention to the discussions of the crowd. Instead, she began to rummage through the ruins. Everything would leave a trace. Perhaps they could find clues from within. Seeing this, the crowd stopped their discussions and helped Yun Chujio rummage through the ruins. Very soon, Lan Luofang pointed at a bead on the ground and said, "Eh? What is this?" Everyone's gaze fell on the bead on Lan Luofang's finger. It was a lustrous and shiny bead, but it was not a false bead. Everyone could feel the rich spiritual energy emitted from it, and it was even denser than supreme-grade spirit stones. Yun Chujio walked up and picked up the bead, looked at it and said, "It looks like something similar to spirit stones, but the spiritual energy contained in it is denser and purer. If I'm not wrong, this bead should have been embedded in the array disk. Let's look for it and see if we can find something similar to the array disk." Goei Batsao in the grass shook its leaves. This stupid girl was really smart to be able to guess it. The group quickly found a few fragments of the array disk in the ruins. Although they looked different from the array disk outside, they could still tell from the ancient runes on it. It seems that the array board exploded for some reason, resulting in the destruction of the steps, Yun Chujio guessed. Everyone felt that what she said made sense, but why did the array board suddenly explode? "Little Jio, now that the steps are destroyed, how do we go up?" Lan Luofang asked worriedly. Yun Chujio smiled lightly. "This isn't a difficult matter. Previously, we went up to the first floor the same way we went up to the second floor. I was worried that there was something wrong with the stairs, so I didn't dare to use the previous method. Now that the stairs have been destroyed, there's nothing to worry about. After daybreak, we'll use the old method to go to the second floor of the levitation layer." Everyone heaved a sigh of relief when they heard that. From the looks of it, it was a good thing that the stairs were destroyed. Guai Chao, who was in the bushes, was stunned for a moment before thinking smugly, as it had said, how could Go Weiba, who had such a powerful dog-tail, cause trouble? Just look at it, it had unintentionally achieved a miraculous feat. It was simply a piece of cake. Yun Chujio felt the smug mood of the Guai Chao in her dantian. She was puzzled. What was the point of it being smug? Is it crazy? If it was not afraid that Yun Chujio would discover that it had hidden a small treasury, it would definitely jump in front of Hei Shinjio to clear its name. However, it was afraid that Yun Chujio would discover it and it would never be able to go out again, so it did not dare to do anything. Goei Batsao flew to Yun Chujio's hair when Yun Chujio was not paying attention. After daybreak, Yun Chujio asked the rolling pin to send Xiao Hei to the second level of the levitation layer and then pulled everyone up. The second level of the levitation layer did not look much different from the first level. Lan Luomu took out something that looked like a disc array and tried it. Then he shook his head at Yun Chujio. Seeing this, Yun Chujio knew that there was no teleportation barrier on this level. She didn't feel surprised. She had a vague feeling that the teleportation barrier would be placed on the highest level of the levitation layer. Thus, Yun Chujio led everyone to the stairs leading to the third level. However, after walking for about an hour, everyone's expressions became serious. Chapter 5047. Woman. Yun Chujio and the others found a lot of blood on the ground, and they also found 2 corpses. When they saw the miserable state of the corpses, they could not help but feel a chill run down their spines. There were countless deep scratches on the bodies of the 2 corpses. Their faces had been scratched so much that their original appearances could not be seen. What was even more puzzling was that the 2 corpses were naked on the top, but their bottoms were covered by red gauze. Yun Chujio originally wanted to go up and examine them, but she guessed that the 2 of them were also naked on the bottom. She was afraid that some jealous person would make a scene, so she asked Lan Luomu to go up and examine them. Yun Chujio was afraid that the corpses were poisonous, so she specially brought a gas mask for Lan Luomu and gave him a pair of heavenly silk gloves. Lan Luomu looked at the 2 things. Although he had never seen them before, his mind was sharp, so he immediately guessed the effect. Therefore, after putting them on, he resisted the nausea and examined the corpses. Yun Chujio, Lan Luoyen, and Lan Luofang averted their gazes so as not to hurt their eyes. A moment later, Lan Luochen covered the red gauze once again and said, "These 2 people's bottoms are also naked, and yes, they were seriously injured. I guess that the cause of their death was not due to external injuries. It seems that they were sucked dry of their essence and blood." Seeing that the 2 of them were not wearing any clothes, everyone had already guessed a thing or two. Therefore, they were not surprised to hear Lan Luomu's words. However, the expression on their faces became even more solemn. At this moment, Lan Luofang found some pieces of clothes at the side. These clothes should belong to the Qi family. It seems that these two people should be from the Qi family. Yun Chujia's expression did not change much. She looked at the wounds on the corpses and said, these two people should have been dead for at least 3 days. Mu Zian and the others should have already left the second level by now. Moreover, since these two bodies have not been eaten, it means that there are no wild beasts in the second level. Lan Luoyen said with a sobbing voice, although there are no wild beasts, I'm afraid there are things that are more terrifying than wild beasts. Yun Chujio glanced at her. Don't worry. That thing probably only likes men. Why are you worried? As soon as Yun Chujio said that, Lan Luoyen stopped crying while Lan Luomu and the others shivered. Alright, maybe that thing has already been killed by Mu Zian and the others. Let's continue on our way. Yun Chujio said indifferently. Seeing that her tone was so relaxed, everyone's mood eased up a little. Actually, Yun Chujio was also very worried. However, as the leader, if she appeared to be very worried, the people below would be even more anxious. Therefore she had to stabilize the morale of the army. Not long after the group walked out, a woman in red walked towards them. As they got closer, the group also saw the woman's appearance clearly. Her appearance was naturally incomparably beautiful. Moreover, her actions were intentionally or unintentionally charming, making people blush and their hearts beat. Of course, Lan Luomu and the others had already seen the two tragic corpses. At this moment, there was only fear in their hearts, not the slightest bit of infatuation. Everyone's faces were solemn and cold sweat started to appear on their foreheads. This woman was most likely the murderer of the previous two people. Was she a human or something else? Everyone subconsciously wanted to run back, but they heard Yun Chujio say with a smile, Auntie in front, the men here are all eunuchs. Don't waste your time. Hurry up and find someone else. Lan Luomu and the others, a certain person in the sleeve bag. Chapter 50-48. The two of them should stay. The woman was obviously shocked by Yun Chujio's words. She stopped in her tracks and then smiled seductively. Little sister, your eyesight isn't good at such a young age. I think it's useless to keep your eyes. Why don't you dig them out? Don't talk about these useless things. Hurry up and leave. Otherwise, if our companions come back, you won't survive. Yun Chujio said tentatively. The woman sneered, they have already gone to the third level. Why would they come back to save you? Previously they volunteered to leave two people for me to play with. If you do as I say, I will let the others leave. Otherwise all of you can stay here. Everyone was stunned when they heard that. Mu Zian and the others actually volunteered to leave the two people behind? They were really ruthless. However, if they had not been dealt with by Yun Chujio previously, perhaps they would have done the same. After all, nothing was more important than their own lives. Yun Chujio did not only think of this. Since this woman was willing to offer to let them leave, it was most likely because this woman was not that strong. Otherwise, wouldn't it be better if they all stayed? The woman saw that Yun Chujio did not speak and thought that she had agreed to her suggestion. She pointed at Lan Luomu and Lan Luoqing and said, I think the two of them are not bad. Let them stay. Lan Luomu and Lan Luoqing's expressions immediately changed. That troublemaker would not abandon them, right? At this moment, Yun Chujio chuckled and said, Aunt, this bluff won't work on me. I don't care what you are, these people are my people. I won't leave any of them for you. The woman misunderstood Yun Chujio's words and thought that she meant that Lan Luomu and the others were her men. She couldn't help but sneer, you little girl, you have no breasts, no body, and you have a big appetite. If you don't agree with me, none of you can think of leaving. As soon as the girl finished speaking, she found that the little girl who had been fooling around was emitting a strong murderous aura. Yun Chujio's face was cold. Who the fuck are you calling having no breasts? Who are you calling having no body? You ugly freak, you old hag. They'll kill you. Hei Xinjiu, who had been stepped on by the cat's tail, was not in the mood to argue with the girl anymore. She immediately waved her paw and said, release the spiritual beast to take care of her. Since she is willing to offer conditions, she is not that powerful. Don't be afraid of her. Hearing that, Lan Luomu and the others felt that what she said made sense. Although this woman was strange, she was not necessarily capable. Therefore they all released their spiritual beasts to attack the woman. The woman snorted and her body suddenly changed into a huge white fox with 7 huge tails behind her. However, his reminder was a little late. Lan Luoqing and Lan Luoji had already fallen for it. The two people's eyes suddenly became dull, and their bodies couldn't help but move forward. Yun Chujio took out a large awl and threw it to Lan Luofeng. Stab. Lan Luofeng saw the awl that was as thick as a pinky finger, and swallowed her saliva. It seemed that little Nine was still kind to her last time, and only used needles to stab her. Lan Luofeng took the big awl and gave it to Lan Luoqing and Lan Luoji. She was secretly happy. They had mocked her many times before. It was really satisfying. Lan Luoqing and Lan Luoji recovered from the pain and did not have time to say anything. They quickly joined the battle. The white fox gradually fell into a disadvantage. Just when everyone was relieved, the white fox's aura suddenly soared and another tail grew out from its back. Chapter 5049 Scared you to death. Not good, it's actually an 8-tailed fox. Everyone be careful. Lan Lumis' voice was slightly trembling. Although the 7-tailed charm fox and the 8-tailed fox only lacked one tail, the difference between the two could be said to be heaven and earth. Fortunately, this woman was not a 9-tailed fox, or else there would really be no way to survive. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and shouted, "Hey Aunt, I advise you not to be brave. If you forcefully use 8 tails, you might not be able to preserve your appearance." The woman gritted her teeth and said, "Stupid girl, you're courting death. It doesn't matter even if you do that. As long as I pick up a few more men, I'll naturally be able to restore my looks." Hearing that, Yun Chujio immediately understood that her guess was right. This fox should have forcefully increased her strength. As long as she delayed it for a while, it would not be able to hold on anymore. Therefore, this fellow said with a smile, "Aunt, it's useless even if you act tough. Can you still transform into 9 tails if you continue to act tough? There's a 9-tailed fox in my spiritual pet. If I let it out, you'll be scared to death." The woman suddenly stopped and took a few steps back. "What did you say?" Yun Chujio thought that she was afraid and said proudly, "Are you afraid? Get out of here quickly or I'll let out the 9-tailed fox to scare you to death." The woman snorted coldly. "9-tailed fox? You really dare to say that? Show me if you have the ability." The Lan family members were speechless when they saw He Xinjiu. Even if you lied, there must be a limit. 9-tailed fox. It was rare to see a fox with 4 tails, okay? Yun Chujio slowly summoned Xiaohong and said, "See? I'm asking if you're afraid." The corners of the Lan family members' eyes twitched. Although the firefox in front of them had grown 6 tails, it was still far from having 9 tails. Xiaohong felt the contempt of the crowd. If she was not afraid that Yun Chujio would take care of it, she would have used the 9-tailed fox to show off. The woman sized up Xiaohong and snorted, "Is this the 9-tailed fox you were talking about? This is the son of the 9-tailed fox. If you don't know your place, I will release the 9-tailed fox." Yun Chujio said with her arms crossed. Xiaohong's heart was like a dog that was bickering. For no reason she had a father. The woman laughed mockingly. "Little girl, your words might be able to fool others, but to fool me? You really have the wrong plan. The 9-tailed fox's cultivation is superb. How could it be subdued by a little girl like you? Furthermore, do you know what my relationship with it is? It won't harm me at all." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said deliberately, "Is the 9-tailed fox your son or your father?" The woman was so angry that she gritted her teeth. "The 9-tailed fox is my husband. Cut the crap and accept your death." Yun Chujio took out a bone and threw it in front of the woman. "Here, your husband." The woman saw that the bone suddenly turned into a human shape. She picked up the bone and took a few steps back in disbelief. This is impossible. Where did you get it?" Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. "I found it on a low-level continent. At that time, there was the skeleton of a 9-tailed fox, and it was locked with 6 10,000-year-old black iron chains. That 9-tailed fox only has a remnant soul left. It asked me to help it." "What favor?" The woman could not wait to ask. Chapter 5050 It was too kind. It said that it wanted to divorce its wife. It said that the most regretful thing it had ever done in its life was to marry a promiscuous wife. It was cuckolded all day long, and its head was turning green like a prairie. He Xinjiu said with her lips curled. The woman screamed sharply, "What? How dare that bastard say that? It has been fooling around outside all day, so why should I guard it? Furthermore, we fox couples have always been playing by ourselves. Why does he have to divorce me? Ichimpich, I know now. It must be you who is spouting nonsense. It's impossible for husband to say something like that." Yun Chujio spread her hands. "Believe it or not, that's what he said. Furthermore, if he wasn't trying to avoid you, why did he run to a lower continent and get trapped by someone? What do you know? Isn't it the same as back then, The woman suddenly covered her head in pain. Back then, what happened back then? Why can't I remember anything? Yun Chujio frowned. This was not the first time she had seen such a situation. What kind of person could leave a mark in these ancient divine beasts or human spiritual senses and prevent them from telling the truth? What kind of terrifying power was this? The woman's expression became more and more painful. She even directly transformed into her beast form and kept rolling on the ground. Yun Chujio never knew what it meant to not take advantage of others when they were in danger. She immediately gestured to everyone and they all rushed forward. The eight-tailed celestial fox's spiritual sense was in great pain, so its strength was greatly reduced. In the end, it was killed by everyone. However, everyone was stunned to find that after the eight-tailed celestial fox died, there was no corpse on the ground. It actually disappeared into thin air. This should only be the remnant soul of the eight-tailed celestial fox. After all, if it was really an eight-tailed celestial fox, how could we be her match? Yun Chujio said. Everyone thought about it and realized that it made sense. Although the eight-tailed celestial fox was slightly weaker than the divine beast, the strength of an adult eight-tailed celestial fox was also very terrifying. How could it be killed so easily? Although Yun Chujio had many questions in her heart, she was pressed for time and did not have the time to think carefully. She immediately led everyone to the stairs leading to the third floor. When they arrived, the sky had already darkened. Everyone decided to continue their journey after daybreak. When Goei Batsao heard this, she immediately felt that the opportunity to show off her skills had arrived. Didn't the little girl say it before? Destroying the steps was a good thing. Then it would go and destroy the steps at night to help the smelly girl. Goei Batsao simply felt that it was too kind. Thus, after Hei Shinjio fell asleep, Goei Batsao jumped towards the steps. According to its previous experience, it successfully destroyed the stairs again. Goei Batsao looked at the ruins on the ground and was quite proud. As the saying went, once the dog tail appeared, who could compete with it? Yun Chujio and the others were stationed not far from here, so they rushed over when they heard the noise. Why did the stairs collapse again? Isn't this too much of a coincidence? Lan Luomu said in surprise. Yeah, it's really strange. Every time when we were resting, the stairs would be destroyed, Lan Luaji echoed. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. What on earth was going on? She ordered the group to search through the ruins and found another bead and fragments of the formation plate. It was almost the same as the previous stairs. Chapter 50-51, Goei Batsao. Little Jio, didn't you say it before? It's a good thing that the steps are ruined. Maybe the heavens are helping us. Lan Luofeng said. The Goei Batsao in the grass was quite proud. It was not the help of the heavens, but the meritorious service here. Yun Chujio did not say anything. There must be something wrong. She always felt that it was not that simple. At this moment, Yun Chujio's spiritual sense transmitted the excited voice of the rolling pin. Master, I have good news for you. I'm going to break through. Yun Chujio lost contact with the rolling pin before she could reply. To be exact, the weapon spirit of the rolling pin was in a state of hibernation. Yun Chujio, she took out the rolling pin and muttered, Baby rolling pin, grow longer. Grow longer. Rui rolling pin, grow longer and longer. My little cutie, grow longer. However, after repeating it more than 10 times, the rolling pin was still. The rolling pin. The Lan family members had a bad feeling. Lan Luofeng asked with a trembling voice, Little Jio, is there something wrong with your rolling pin? Yun Chujio showed an awkward but polite smile. It's not a big problem. It's just that it can't grow longer. Everyone. This wasn't a big problem? It was a big problem. If the rolling pin couldn't grow any longer, how were they supposed to get up there? The head of Goei Batsao in the haystack buzzed. Was over. Wasn't helping. It wasn't its fault. If anyone was to blame, it would be that damned rolling pin. When was a bad time to break through? Why did it have to break through at this time? What else could a rolling pin do if it broke through again? At most, it would turn into a burning pin. Besides, the smelly girl didn't know that it did it anyway. As long as it didn't say anything, only heaven and earth would know. What was there to be afraid of? With this thought, Goei Batsao immediately calmed down and hid in the bushes to watch the show. Everyone was frowning. The second level was more than 100 feet high from the third level. Without the rolling pin, how were they going to get up there? Yun Chujio didn't have any ideas for the time being. She had tried the little Wu Yun before, but the little Wu Yun couldn't fly at all. Clearly it was restricted here. Just as Yun Chujio was frowning, the little silver snake in her sleeve pocket struggled a few times. Yun Chujio frowned. What was this pretty boy doing? Didn't he know that she was troubled? However, she still walked to the side and took out the small silver snake with her back facing the crowd. She said snappily, "Pretty boy, what do you want to do? Don't you know that I'm busy right now?" The small silver snake's vertical pupils immediately turned cold as it said in a cold tone, "I just want to remind you that the rolling pin is just a long rod. When you connect the bamboo pole or the wooden rod, the effect should be the same." When Yun Chujio heard that, she immediately slapped her thigh. That's right. She was really stupid. She had everything in her storage ring. Couldn't she just randomly find some bamboo poles to connect them together? When this fellow saw the little silver snake's cold gaze, he immediately said guiltily, "Gigolo, no, my dear Prince Charming, I was wrong. I shouldn't have spoken to you like that. You're a grown-up and don't remember me for my past transgressions, so don't hold it against me." The little silver snake's gaze was still cold. This ugly girl was getting more and more overboard. He had to let her know what it meant to be a husband. Chapter 50-52 will be discussed later. Hei Shinjio saw that the little silver snake did not make a sound, and his eyes were still cold. She said flatteringly, "Male god, you are indeed my male god. Not only are you beautiful but you are also extremely wise. Fortunately, I am not a man. Otherwise, I would be ashamed to live compared to you." The little silver snake still did not make a sound, but the coldness in his eyes had faded a lot. "My Prince Charming, it's a good thing that you're by my side. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to think of a solution even if I racked my brains. You're really too smart." The coldness in the little silver snake's eyes had faded a lot, and only a little bit of its face remained. "You're such an outstanding man, but you're actually my fiancé. I'm so honored. Prince Charming, come, let's kiss." The silver snake saw Yun Chujio's pouty lips coming over and immediately slipped back into its sleeve pocket. It stuttered, "Next time it won't happen again." Yun Chujio pursed her lips. "You're a tsundere. I can't control you." Although this fellow thought so in his heart, he said obediently on the surface, "I know. It'll definitely change my past in the future." The little silver snake pretended to be aloof and acknowledged, but its body was suffused with a faint pink color. He thought to himself, no matter what, the ugly girl had already admitted her mistake. As for the matter of Fu Gang, he should talk about it in the future. After Yun Chujio fawned on a certain someone, she returned to the place where everyone was gathered and explained Di Biming's method. Everyone was stunned at first, then they were overjoyed. That's right, they were really one-track minded. They could totally use something else to replace the rolling pin. The Goei Batsao in the bushes also let out a sigh of relief. Let's see, wasn't the final result still good? That was why Go Weiba was a great fortune. It could always turn a disaster into a blessing. It was simply wonderful. At this time it was almost dawn. Everyone was not in the mood to sleep anymore. They quickly tied the bamboo pole that Yun Chujio took out together. After finishing, Yun Chujio tested the sturdiness of the bamboo poles before putting Xiao Hei on it. However, to be on the safe side, she also placed a lot of gunny sacks underneath. The gunny sacks were filled with soft cotton. Everyone looked at the pile of gunny sacks with an interesting expression on their faces. This storage ring of the troublemaker was like a treasure chest. How could it contain so much cotton? They did not know that Hei Shinjio had experienced too many things. As a precautionary measure, the storage ring could be said to have everything. Xiao Hei successfully jumped onto the third level of the levitation layer and pulled everyone up. The third level's building was obviously much more luxurious than the two lower levels. However, everyone was not too interested in it. They only wanted to find the teleportation enchantment at the exit as soon as possible. Therefore, when everyone learned from Lan Luomu that there was no portal on the third floor, they immediately rushed to the entrance to the fourth floor. However, they soon saw that there was a lot of blood on the blue stone in front of them, as well as a few corpses. What surprised everyone was that the cause of death of those corpses was actually the spiritual power of the cultivators. Could it be that the Mu family and others had an internal conflict? Lan Luoyan spat, "Dogs biting dogs serves you right." As soon as she finished speaking, someone cried out in shock, "You, what's wrong with you? Why do you look exactly like me? Who are you?" Everyone looked towards the source of the voice and saw that the woman who spoke looked exactly like Lan Luoyan. Whether it was her appearance, voice, or expression, they were exactly the same. Chapter 50-53. Who is the fake? Lan Luoyan No. 1's face was filled with anger. "You are the fake. I'm going to kill you. Kill me? I'm going to kill you. How dare you pretend to be me? You must be tired of living. Lan Luoyan number 2 said, unwilling to be outdone. Everyone was dumbfounded. Why were there two Lan Luoyan? Lan Luomu and Lan Luoqing separated the two of them and then looked at Yun Chujio. Captain, which of these two is real? Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. Just as she was about to speak, another round of chaos broke out. Lan Luomu and the others had also turned into two. The scene was noisy and some of them had already started fighting. Yun Chujio shouted sternly, stop. Whoever fights again will be a fake. However, a voice sounded beside her. You bastard, how dare you pretend to be my little fairy Jio? Are you tired of living? Yun Chujio turned her head and saw a woman who looked exactly like her standing beside her. She was scolding her with her hands on her waist, just like how she usually looked in the mirror. Yun Chujio curled her lips. Interesting, there are actually people who dare to pretend to be me in this world? The imposter curled his lips. I wanted to give you these words. Where did you get the courage to pretend to be me? Shameless. For a moment, the scene was in chaos. Some people had already started to fight again. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. She had to quickly control the situation or the consequences would be unimaginable. She looked at the imposter and directly struck out several bolts of lightning. Who would have thought that the imposter would also return Yun Chujio a few bolts of lightning? Yun Chujio's heart was shocked. This imposter's imitation was so real that it could even imitate a spiritual root. However, even if it could imitate, it probably wouldn't be able to imitate the small flame in her palm. When Yun Chujio thought of this, when she attacked again, it was directly mixed with the flame of the small flame. As expected, the imposter didn't think that Yun Chujio would actually have a small flame, and it was burned directly. At this moment, Yun Chujio had Xiao Hanyo curse her. She took the opportunity when the imposter was staggering and killed him. However, she was surprised to find that after the imposter died, there was a pearl on the ground. It was actually a paranoia beast? After killing the imposter, Yun Chujio shouted, everyone stop. If anyone continues to attack, it means that he is an imposter. Hearing that, everyone stopped and stared at each other indignantly. Yun Chujio narrowed her eyes. How could she tell who was real and who was fake? Yun Chujio called the two Lan Luofang to the front and asked, each of you tell me something that only she and I know. Lan Luofang no. One said, Little Jio, I've cut down the immortal wood with you and found a simple and convenient way. Yun Chujio nodded. Only she and Lan Luofang knew this. This should be true. At this moment, Lan Luofang number 2 said, Little Jio, you and I killed a fox and a beast on the flat street. You even stabbed me with a needle. When Yun Chujio heard this, it was true. Only she and Lan Luofang knew this. Then the question was, who was the real one? Seeing that Yun Chujio was hesitating, Lan Luofang number 1 quickly said, Little Jio, I went to my grandfather's house previously. It was you who sent me a message, so I rushed back. Lan Luofang number 2 was not willing to be outdone. Little Jio, you were afraid that I would be in danger, so you gave me a lot of chili noodles. You even told me to run if I couldn't beat you. Yun Chujio's eyes flashed. She probably already knew who the imposter was. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.